Focused on South Australia as the Tour Down Under kicks off the UCI calendar.
Great way of finding to start the year, set you up for the season.
Richie is clearly fighting for the victory, so he's going to be our leader here. I enjoy coming to Adelaide for the Tour Down Under. I think all my teammates do. It's a good way to get the season started.
Certainly not an easy race, but it's a nice atmosphere.
First World Tour win, I'll never forget it, that's for sure.
Caleb Ewan grabbed all the headlines on Sunday, beating world champion Peter Sagan to the line to win the People's Choice Classic for the second year running.
My team backed me 100% as you saw, and this is a great race to build your confidence. I can't wait to get started.
And now he's aiming to emulate last year's win on stage one.
He makes it look all too easy.
But the challenge will be greater than ever as a world-class field has travelled to South Australia for the first stage of the season.
It's always a nice event on the calendar.
I love this race. I'd just like to get out there and have a crack.
It's super special for me. I feel like home. We brought a great team here. Everybody's ready. We have big ambition and big motivation for this race.
It's sure to be a blockbuster. Get ready for the Santos Tour Down Under. Hello and welcome, Channel 9's Wide World of Sports, the Santos Tour Down Under. This is Hostworks Stage 1, 145 kilometres from Unley to Lindok. We are underway and look at that. Scorching conditions, 39 degrees. It's going to be a little bit warmer in the saddle for our competitors, and 145 kilometres, it's a long way. There's Louis de Vries. He is a 28-year-old Belgian who rides for Astana, the Kazakhstan team, of course, or Loris de Vries, if I can pronounce his name correctly. 111 Ks to go, of course, and they'll be going a lot quicker at the end, and you would think that he will come back to the pack, and the guys like Caleb Ewan and others will come right to the fore. 1.3 Ks is the gap at the moment. He had stretched that out a bit further, and it's coming together a little bit now. Very, very warm conditions right at the moment for stage one of the Santos Tour Down Under. Well, last year it was Caleb Ewan who won the People's Choice Classic. Then he went on to win stage one. Will he do it again? He's got plenty of competition, including the world champion Peter Sagan. And with that, I welcome the voices of the Santos Tour Down Under, Phil and Paul. Gentlemen, how are you?
Very warm.
Yes, it is. Particularly warm. Well, it's a huge week. Obviously, what's happening right at the moment, young De Vries will eventually be swallowed up. You can't hold the break in these conditions.
No, he's got away very early on. He's about 3 kilometres in. This is a stage of 145. One rider against the pack. They're not going to chase him down. In fact, they're going quite slowly. But he's been up to 4 minutes. It's back now to about 1.5, 2.
But what's interesting at the front end of the main field, it's Orica Scott, the team of Caleb Ewan, who have started to set the tempo. They didn't want that breakaway to get too far off the front of the main field. But everybody's thinking about what's going to happen in the rest of this week, because there's a little bit of something for everyone.
Yeah, and Simon Guerin said yesterday, and I've heard this a few times sprinkled across the first few days of the event, this is the best field that we've seen by a lot of them.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. I mean, I've been here for the 19 events that is made up the Santos Tour, and this is a real good field in depth. We're talking about 2 or 3 Aussies we think can win it, but there could be surprises. Remember, this is also the first UCI World Tour event of the year, and we're getting to see the guys in action. We're also facing up to 6 days and nearly 900 kilometres.
Yeah, I'd like to take 2 of those days, Phil. Stage 2, tomorrow's stage to Paracom. It's much harder than it has been previously, and that could be the first decider. And then, of course, Old Wollonga Hill. We always talk about that being the icing on the cake in this race, keeping all of the suspense right down towards the final weekend of racing. Again, there are a number of opportunities for our sprinters. Caleb Ewan will be right in the mix today, as he was for the People's Choice Classic, so much so that he won it. Let's have a look at the highlights of the People's Choice Classic.
champion Peter Sagan and Aussie favourite Caleb Ewan were the crowd favourites as once again the streets of Adelaide played host to the People's Choice Classic, where the riders faced 22 laps of high-speed action on the 2.3 kilometre city circuit. The early pace was set by breakaway duo Will Clark and Ben O'Connor before the Dimension Data rider broke free. He cut a lonely figure until he was chased down by the peloton with only a few laps to go.
As they try to push on, and look at this, Peter Sagan looking for the location of Caleb Ewan. The sweeper into the left-hander now. They take it wide and quick. Now the lead out begins for Orica Scott. They've got their man on the back wheel, but they've also got Sagan on his back wheel. Ewan goes for it now, and Sagan is taking him on. 75 metres to go. The world champion Peter Sagan breaks to the centre, but Caleb Ewan has done it with an absolutely superb result.
We probably went quite early compared to a lot of the other teams, but they rode absolutely perfectly. They used the other teams towards the end when they were running out of guys, and they still delivered me perfectly in the end, with a full lead out. And I'm really happy it started off well with Roger as well. He delivered me perfectly.
Oh, he's a dynamo, isn't he, Caleb Ewan? And they're the results from Sunday.
Yeah, look at the time too, 1 hour 3 minutes for 51 kilometres. Good sprint between the teammates there, Sam Bennett and Peter Sagan, but being beaten by McEwen. And the Italian sprinters on form too. Bonifacio could win today. What about Ed Turns, Paul?
Well, if he thinks back to the Tour de France last year, Phil, he had a very nasty crash and in fact cracked a vertebrae in the lower part of his back, so he's trying to get himself back to form. And look at that, Evergreen in 6th position there. Mark Renshaw, he won't be too far away, I think, when we come down to the finish today.
Second here last year, sorry Tim.
No, never apologise. You are the voice of the Santos Tour now. Now, look, Caleb Ewan, he did so well by winning the People's Choice Classic and doubling up with stage 1. In fact, he won the final stage as well. This year, is it fair to say that it's going to be tougher than last year?
It's certainly, the weather's going to make it, I think, a lot more tougher than it is this time around, because it is really hot today. We're topping out at 39 degrees by the time the guys arrive. We've got one man in the lead at the moment. They're not going to go and chase him down. They're going to wait for him to implode and then go back down to the peloton. We finish here with 3 circuits, don't we, Paul? And I think because of those 3 circuits, which takes us over the finish line here 4 times as we finish on the 4th, I think that they're going to chase down. Bunch sprint, Caleb Ewan?
Absolutely a bunch sprint. Caleb Ewan will get challenged, I think, Phil, all the way to the line. Now, we saw 2 riders from the same team finish 2nd and 3rd in the People's Choice, Sam Bennett and, of course, Peter Sagan. I find that Peter Sagan, after his first sprint of the year, he tends to get faster and faster and stronger and more confident. So I think he'll be looking for the victory. But Caleb Ewan's got a new teammate, Roger Kluger, who's a brilliant track rider. And if those 2 riders can get it together, if they can click the lead out, well, it could be Caleb Ewan, just as it was 12 months ago.
Well, right here, very early in the race, there's Caleb there, just taking it nice and easy. His work's going to come a bit later on, of course. He just wants to stay out of any trouble, and in the end, they'll have the team lined up ready for him to burst through.
Yeah, significant at the moment. If we had a shot at the peloton, I think you'll find he's got teammates on the front of the race. So he's actually using his teammates to keep this lone rider in touch with them. We're not chasing them too hard.
Yeah, that lone rider is De Vries, of course, from the Astana team. He's a 28-year-old. He's there for the moment, and he'll probably get the Subaru the first points.
Not too far now,
yes. The king of the mountain. And then, he won't be there in the finish. We know that. It'll be Ewan, it'll be Sagan and these other brilliant sprinters. But let's have a look at last year. How did it all unfold? Stage 1 of the Santos Tour Down Under in 2016.
Here we go again for the start of the Tour Down Under. What an exciting week we have ahead of us. And there's a breakaway already. Lucas Hamilton making a getaway. And Lucas Hamilton wins the opening sprint of the day.
They're really starting to string things out now, but Impey just with Caleb Ewan tucked in behind him really nicely in his slipstream. But it's Team Sky in the front, Geraint Thomas in second wheel. Impey still guiding Caleb Ewan. They're in about 5th position. Someone looking to try and make an attack in the bright yellow.
The final bend here now as they sweep into the home straight. Now Caleb is in a perfect position, dodging wheels. Now is Caleb Ewan going to get this one as he bursts from the middle in the sprinting style of Mark Cavendish. He is coming clear again. He makes it look all too easy.
Great to to have your company. This is the Santos Tour Down Under, and we're looking at the pictures of Laurens de Vries from Astana getting the early points in the Subaru King of the Mountain. This is Hostworks Stage 1 of the Tour Down Under. Unley to Lindok, 145 k's, and he's working hard. He's a lone breakaway right at the moment. The peloton just a little bit down the road, but he'll be happy with that. His team will be very happy with that he's got the early points in the King of the Mountain.
Because what he's done, he's run the only official climb of the race today, so he's obviously the leader now of the Subaru King of the Mountain. He gets to wear a leader's jersey tomorrow, so his breakaway was worth it.
Well, it was worth it for him, but let's not forget there's a lot of other things that make this race extremely interesting, because it's the first race in the World Tour. And for riders, they used to come to this race as part of their preparation for the rest of the season, but it's so important now to ride well high in the overall standings for your positions when it goes through to the next races of the year. So there'll be a lot of teams making sure that they look after themselves today.
Yeah, a blistering hot day for Hostworks Stage 1 of the Santos Tour Down Under. Let's have a look at the track map, boys.
Well, this is it. We're well on the way now, about 39 kilometres in. Unley to Lindok, sponsored today by Hostworks. Take us through it, Paul. We started just outside of our hotel.
Yep, the riders actually started in Unley, and it was neutralised to begin with till they got to Regency Park, then out via Mawson Lakes, over One Tree Hill and over the King of the Mountains point there at Caresbrook. But it's all about this circuit down towards the end, 3 times around Lindok, and the wind is very blustery here on the finishing circuit, so anybody will have to make sure they keep all of their contenders up towards the front and not get caught out in the crosswinds.
All right, let's have a look at the race update. De Vries eventually got away, but this is where it all started in Unley.
A familiar place to kick off the Tour Down Under for the 19th time, starting in Unley. Big street party last night. That set the trend for the street parties that we see all over the place now on this tour. The big man is there, Peter Sagan, in his World Championship rainbow jersey. Mike Terter, always the race director, former Olympian in 1984, gold medalist, waving them off. We're on the way. Oh, we are well on the way now.
As soon as the neutralised flag came in, the rider in the turquoise jersey there from Team Astana decided he was the man who wanted to go out and get the early advantage.
It's a lot colder in Astana, which is the capital of Kazakhstan, by the way, where he rides for this team. He's actually Belgian himself, 28 years of age. Look at that, Paul. The Orica Scott team making sure he doesn't get too far.
Well, he got a maximum advantage of 4.5 minutes, but once it started to get up to that point, that's where we saw Orica Scott start to wind up the pace behind. But he did earn himself enough of an advantage to get maximum points, the only points of the day out on the course for the King of the Mountain. So at least one thing he will get out of his ride at the front of this race today is a lead in the Subaru King of the Mountains competition.
That's the scene so far. I think we can take you out on the highway now. These are live pictures. He is still there. Doesn't look like there's too much sweat on that body, but this is a warm day for a man that comes from Belgium, I can tell you that.
He could fry an egg on his helmet, couldn't he, Paul? Right at the moment, it's very, very warm, 39 degrees.
It is hot. And now a little bit of reaction from the field. They're sprinting for the lower points, I think, in the King of the Mountains here. Once they get further down the road and onto the circuits, we're going to see in Cockatoo Valley race for the Sprinters jersey. A couple of sprint points there. We'll see all that live as our programme now unfolds. These boys getting used to the roads now. Let's have a look at the profile, Paul. Not too bad today. We've been over the M, that's the mountain.
Yeah, not too bad. A little bit lumpy at the start, though, when we go over that first King of the Mountain points where we saw Laurens de Vries getting himself the maximum points. But as you look down towards the end, you can see the undulations of the finishing circuit around here. So this finishing circuit here around Lindok are not only made difficult by the fact there's a couple of inclines, but also by the wind, which will come at the riders in different directions as they go around that circuit.
Yeah, I think the thing is, Tim, that it's day 1 of 6. We're going to ride 850 kilometres. This guy might pay for this in 2 or 3 days' time.
Oh, he's certainly doing some hard work right at the moment. As we mentioned, 39, 40 degrees. So it really is frying up. Stage 1 of the Santos Tour Down Under. I'll let you go do some commentary and enjoy the air conditioning.
Oh, I can't wait for the air conditioning. Thank you.
I'll stay out here and I'll do the hard work, the slugging work, as you guys enjoy it. All right, now let's have a look at the Tour Tracker, because everything you need to know about the Santos Tour Down Under is on the Tour Tracker. It's got all the teams, it's got all the athletes, it's got all the ins and outs of this wonderful event. And then you can also get onto Twitter, and the hashtag is AskRobbieTDU. Keep it nice and clean, of course. Robbie McEwen will attempt to answer your questions throughout the course of our coverage. Robbie McEwen answering questions on Twitter. Now, Rob has been here for a number of weeks, slaving away and previewing all the stages. Here's Robbie McEwen's preview of the Hostworks Stage 1 of the Santos Tour Down Under.
The opening stage in this year's Tour Down Under takes place here in the beautiful Barossa, but it's no easy cruise through the wine region. It's the first World Tour race of the season and it's intense. Last year, 135 kilometres was completed at an average of 46 kilometres an hour. That is flat out.
A nice leg warmer for the riders today, but very, very fast down here.
And if there is a breakaway, they'll have to work extremely hard to take the win. It's here in picturesque Williamstown that the hostilities will really begin. Tactically, the peloton would like to make the catch late in the race, in that final 10 kilometres, and it's from here that the speed is really going to ramp up. The reason for the late catch is if you haul them in too early, you open yourself up to new attacks, and they need to be responded to. Who is going to do it? It's up to the sprinters teams to keep things under control. But it's vital energy lost if you commit to that chase. The team sprinter needs as many teammates as fresh as possible to get him in position to win this stage. This final 7 kilometre section is flat and super fast. In last year's race, the riders along here averaged an astounding 55 kilometres an hour. Once they hit the final kilometre, they'll be doing well above 60k an hour. After riding 3 circuits around Lindok, the riders will have sized up the finishing straight and know exactly what they need to do. Ideally, a sprinter needs a teammate to lead him through that final bend and into the last 200 metres. With a little bit of luck, you don't get boxed in, you find some open road and accelerate for the finish line.
Ewan, he makes it look all too easy.
Sitting on top of the world, there he is. He looks nice and relaxed, doesn't he, in the rainbow jersey. Peter Sagan, the current world champion, and that is the peloton, just cruising away on a pretty warm day. Hostworks Stage 1 of the Santos Tour Down Under from Unley to Lindok. And there is our leader, Laurens de Vries from Astana. He made his point very clear right from the start of the race, and he's been out there ever since, doing some pretty tough work in scorching heat, Paul.
Well, he made a break very early on, and the reason for that was because he knew the Subaru King of the Mountains points was up the road. He wanted to get those points. I'm not sure he wanted to ride 145 kilometres all on his own in conditions like this, but he's an experienced professional rider at 28 years of age, and he'll know how important it is to keep himself topped up with liquids.
Now, we saw Peter Sagan there, and another absolute superstar who's got such a personality is this Esteban Chavez. Last year, brilliant 12 months for him. The Colombian who joined Orica Scott, couldn't speak a word of English 3 years ago. Now he is fantastic. And that cheeky charm, you guys chatted with him last night. He's had so much good stuff to say. It was refreshing, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was very refreshing. And he's part of the Orica Scott bike team, which is riding at the front end of the peloton. It's very difficult for them here at the Santos Tour Down Under because they want to win everything. They're the Australian team. They wave the flag for Aussie. And, of course, they want to win the opening stage with Caleb Ewan, but they've got to dose their efforts over the course of this week, because they're also I think they're expecting Esteban Chavez to actually win this bike race overall. And when we talked to him about the climb up to Paracombe, we talked about Wollonga Hill, he just laughed at us. He thought it was hilarious. He said, those aren't mountains. He said, mountains are where I come from in Colombia, where mountains are 40 kilometres long and go up to 12 or 13,000 feet. So he was pretty confident.
Oh, he comes from very humble stock from Bogota in Colombia, and what a tribute he is to both his team and his nation. You won't forget that name, Esteban Chavez for Orica Scott. We have got 6 days of racing. This is day one. Robbie McEwen has been on the start line with a few of the stars and had a chat with them.
Yeah, it's actually going to be a pretty tough stage, obviously because of the heat, and the first part of the stage before we even get to the circuits is quite tough as well. So it's just going to be like who gets through that first part well in the heat, and you just never know what can happen.
Yeah, when I came here, it was around 30-40 degrees, and it was changing every day. And the last week was colder, like 20-25. That was really, really good. And now, it's again 40 degrees or 38, and we will be suffer a little bit. But it's not very long stages here. That what is also good for us, and how I said, it's very good for preparation. It's always better to have hot than rain and cold.
This heat's a little bit different to what I'm used to, but should be fine.
So trying to just look after yourself today, get through unscathed, and think about that tough stage tomorrow up to Paracombe.
Yeah, it's a little bit different here, that we don't have many days to kind of find your groove and get back into it. Tomorrow is probably the Queen stage.
Yeah, well, you're a mountain climber, you're renowned for your climbing skills, but on your birthday you're not going to get a gift of a mountain stage. Flat for the sprinters and very, very hot. Have you done something special to prepare for the hot weather?
Well, I think the same like everyone, some ice socks, cold weather as well. I think we will drink one bottle every 20 minutes for sure, cold. This is important, and it's important to keep the low temperature for tomorrow, because you can finish today, but if you're cooking tomorrow, you pay for that. So also, I think at the final we will have some ice bath or keep the body in low temperature, and it's like this, crossing fingers, you're not cooking.
Miles Scottson looking resplendent in that Australian Champions jersey. Must be a very proud moment for you to line up in that jersey.
Yeah, it is. First race, happens to be out on home roads out near the finish today. So, looking forward to it.
Yeah, we've got a strong team here, and it's going to be hard to manage both GC and sprint expectations, obviously, but we did it well last year, and we've got an extra guy for the lead out this year. So hopefully we can repeat the same result as last year as well.
Yeah, final thoughts there from Caleb Ewan, who is the favourite to win this stage. Just looking at that thread of interviews and what they were talking about, the heat was high on the list, wasn't it? And what sort of toll it would take today?
Well, that's important because you have to dose your effort over the 6 days of this bike race, and you have to look after yourself. You haven't got to get too excited by the race today. You've got to think, what have I got to do? I'm a professional bike rider. Every 10-15 minutes you've got to make sure you keep yourself topped up with fluids, and that's why I think it's the heat will dictate the race. But all of a sudden you'll start to see the acceleration coming down towards the end as these riders start to get themselves organised in the chase behind the lone leader. His advantage went up to 4.5 minutes. They brought it back to 2 minutes, and with 93 kilometres to go, we're still looking at around about 2 hours and 15 minutes before our lone leader thinks about getting to the finishing line.
Yeah, Lawrence de Vries from Astana out in front. He took off pretty much straight away out of Unley, and he won the original points on the King of the Mountain, Subaru King of the Mountain. So he's going good, and he's doing a good job for his team. It was interesting to hear Chavez say, you don't want to be cooking. He put it beautifully.
Well, the riders will also, as they mentioned, straight after the finish, a lot of them will try and get into ice baths or put on ice vests to try and cool the core body temperature down as quickly as possible. But we just noticed there as we got the caption, that gap that was 4.5 minutes is now down to 1.25 minutes. So once we start to get to the long straightaways, the main field will begin to get the sight of the Astana rider, Lawrence de Vries, in their crosshairs. And and they'll be realising that he ain't going to win the stage today, and they'll have to think about how they structure the race a little bit later on to set it up for the sprinters.
Well, there you can see, there is the peloton. It's now stretching out a little bit itself. Lawrence de Vries from Astana out in front. He's been there for quite some time. We're going to talk tactics with Robbie McEwen. We're going to look at this brilliant women's race that will finish tonight. Fan cam, of course, with Johnny Stephenson, and the race itself. There's so much more to come. I'll let you go to the air-conditioned commentary box, Paul, and we look forward to your dulcet tones in the interim. We will watch this to the break, and then we'll be back racing here for the
So as we see the riders continue to make their pace, it's Damien Howson on the front here. Alongside me is Paul Sherwin, and as commentary continues, we're also going to hear from Robbie McEwen, who was 12 times a stage winner in this event. He used to like 12s, Robbie, didn't he, Paul? 12 in the Tour de France, 12 in the Giro d'Italia, etc.
Yep, great sprinter. He will relish the running towards the finish today, and I think what's interesting about the finish today is the riders get kind of a dress rehearsal once we come down here to Lindok. They've got those 3 circuits around this area, which is going to be quite complicated as well because of the blustery, windy conditions. The wind will one time be coming from the left of the riders, another time from the right-hand side of the riders, and other times it'll be a headwind. So if you want to win the bike race overall, you've got to be very attentive on the finishing circuits today.
Damien Howson looking at the Trek boys. I think he might be asking a little bit of assistance. He's certainly chatting and doesn't look too upset about it. Ortigas and Scott know they have on paper the fastest finisher on the team if they can bring him to the line. He won the opening stage last year, Caleb Ewan, so he'll try to get it off to a good start this time around. Nobody in a hurry. They're actually riding quite a way behind their expected arrival time just at this moment. Can't blame them because it is really warm out there today.
And I think basically, Phil, they're just expecting to see Lawrence de Vries cook in the midday sun here. We saw his advantage get taken up to close to 4.5 minutes as soon as he broke clear. But once it got to that dangerous point, you started to see the attentive nature of Orica Scott. They've got so much responsibility on them. They're the Australian team, the first race of the year in Australia. They certainly want to try and open up with a stage win on day 1, as they did just 12 months ago.
Well, Lawrence de Vries rather fortunate, I think, that he is beneath the shade of the eucalyptus trees there, which on occasion you might catch a koala asleep at this time of the day, by the way, and you can't blame him. He's been a pro, de Vries, since 2011, started with the small teams. Another team, Top Sport Flandern, passed him through to the World Tour back in 2015 via the Wanty Group teams. And Astana obviously sees something in him, Paul, because they've signed him right through 2018 now.
Yeah, he was born in Ghent originally, which is right in the very heart of cycling in Belgium, and in fact is an under-23 rider who was the Belgian national champion back in 2010, and that's why he was introduced into the Vlaanderen Top Sport squad, and that was it's still pretty much the development squad put together by the Flemish part of the country.
But what a shock, and you were commentating on the race back in 2012 when he snatched 2nd place in the Classic Paris Tours.
Yeah, it was amazing, a breakaway situation. Treks, I mean, this year, I just don't know how they managed to do it, Phil. All of the teams go away and they plan the changes, plan their new colours for the season, and they always seem to come up with the same colour at the same time. And this year now, Trek Segafredo, very red, followed by the red of BMC, followed by the red of Bahrain. It's going to be complicated in the sprint down towards the end.
We'll work on it. The white jersey, though, is also Team BMC, we've just seen there, and that is Miles Scotson, the new champion of the road race in Australia. He won the title in Buninyong very, very recently, and it was a great win for him. First pro race of any importance, and he's the national champion of Australia, so he's very happy to be showing off those colours today.
What an honour, Phil. The first big race as a professional bike rider, getting himself the national title, and then wearing the national jersey here in Australia's big race. Welcome to the Barossa Valley.
And there we are as we look out across the Barossa Valley.
Yeah, the Barossa Valley getting its name from the Battle of Barossa, which took place in 1811. That was a battle between the British and the French, by the way, as they tried to take over the control of the port of Cadiz.
I thought they'd be trying to settle down who owned the grapes, because this is a very fertile region. We go up into the rims there occasionally on this race, and we'll certainly be down that way in McLaren Vale for the big battle of Wollonga Hill on the penultimate day of this race. The way we see it at the moment on paper, It's stages 2, which is tomorrow, huge climb to the finishing line, and stage 5, which also finishes on a hilltop. That's where we expect the man who's got ambition to be showing his colours. But for now, we're watching Damien Howson here just ride with the Trek team, keep that breakaway under control and make sure it doesn't get too far. We're racing towards the finishing circuit in Lindok.
You can see the riders have been in the saddle for about an hour and 3/4, roughly, with 92 kilometres to go. I'm expecting that to be covered in around about 2 hours of racing.
Well, this is Williamstown here now, so we're getting ourselves onto the edge of the circuit as we head up towards Lindok itself. This will be on the circuit as we've now joined the circuit, but and once we get to the finishing line we'll go round it 3 times.
In fact,
well, it's got this far.
In fact, that little road from the left-hand side we just saw, that's where the riders will start to come back in on the finishing circuit. And I think we'll start to see a little bit more attention in the main peloton. You can see TMBMC, and on the left-hand side, Richie Porte. I suppose we could crown him the king of Wollonga Hill because he's been undefeated up that climb for the last 3 years. But I think he wants to go better than he ever has in the overall classification. He really wants to win it. And his teammate Rowan Dennis, who's the current, the new time trial champion of Australia for the 2nd year in a row, he's basically said he's going to do everything he can to help Richie Porte to get that crown.
Now looking at the riders now, because we just caught a nice glimpse of him, but the 5th rider in the boys in the red jersey is Tom Scully from New Zealand. He was flown in late last night and has started the race to replace a sick rider on the team, and he's never expected to ride today in the Santos Tour Down Under, but he is here. All the riders here enjoying themselves, and the crowd appreciating the effort they're making. So the red topped riders are on Trek. We've also got the new Abu Dhabi riders. They're also partially red as well, so we're going to have great fun and games if they all go for the sprint finish today. Just on 2 minutes 50 seconds is the last time check that I've seen. I think it's down to nearly 2:05, 2 minutes now. Looking out now across the Barossa Valley, we're on day 1 of the Santos Tour Down Under of 6 stages today, where this week we'll finish down in Adelaide on Sunday. There's the man that broke away after just 3 kilometres today, Laurens de Vries, and had a lead of over 4 minutes, but it's now coming back as we approach the finish line first time. Well, the sun looks to be right on his back now. Look at the shadow under his bike there. 86 kilometres are still to go. Main field looking a little bit more anxious now. Damien Howson just tapping out the rhythm, but making sure they don't get away too far in front.
But all of these teams are now realise they're just calculating their effort, and they've got to think about the kind of efforts they put in these hot climatic conditions, because if you try too hard today, you're going to pay for those efforts going into tomorrow's stage and the stages further on. And tomorrow, everybody knows, is an extremely decisive stage to try and win this bike race overall. Very difficult start for 5 circuits around Stirling, which is certainly not a flat start to the race. And then, of course, they charge right across to Paracombe, which is a finish where we've been before, but they're coming at it from a different angle, and it's going to be a much longer, harder climb. The official time gap there with the timekeeper on the side of the road, Phil, it's now down to 1 minute and 10 seconds.
Well, he hasn't increased or decreased, he's just riding along, to be in absolute honesty. It's the field behind who's now taking a little bit more of the chase down back in the main field there. He'll expect this, but it hasn't been a breakaway of no use, because he will be the first leader in the King of the Mountains. They don't have too many mountains in the Santos Tour Down Under. They do have climbs, and he's taken the first points to give him an early lead in the Subaru event.
Well, I thought it was quite funny last night talking to Esteban Chavez about the mountains in South Australia. He comes from Colombia. Now, he just laughed. He said, a mountain. He says it only takes 7 minutes to get up that climb, and he's used to climbs of an hour or an hour and a half.
Yes, we interviewed him last night at a special function, and I have to say, I don't think I've met a nicer guy in the sport. What an absolutely professional gentleman he was.
And he feels, as he said, very much Aussie and part of that Aussie squad, Orica Scott, and he wants to do whatever he can. I think he's the joker. We talk about Simon Gerrans, who's won this race on 4 occasions, being the leader of Orica Scott, but I've got a funny feeling that the man that they brought all the way from Colombia, Esteban Chavez, is the man that they're marking for the win.
Mostly Trek riders at the front here, mixing with the BMC boys. They want to keep Richie Port safe and sound as they guide him through for what they hope will be a big day for him tomorrow. Really tough stage tomorrow. Could turn out to be one of the toughest we've ever had in the 19-year history of this race, as we start in a town called Stirling up in the hills, in the Adelaide Hills, and race across to the finishing town in Paracombe. All the wind you can see in the vineyards there really whipping up now at the moment. South Australia may be recognised around the world for its food and wine, but did you know it's also a great tourism destination for bike riders? The cycling infrastructure, like the Jack Bobridge track around the Barossa and the Coast of Vines trail around McLaren Vale, you won't even have to ride on a road if you don't want to. As you pass through the beautiful vineyards and countryside, stop and roll a blanket out under 100-year-old eucalyptus trees, or drop into one of the many very accommodating local cellar doors and the sublime cafes. Well, it's a beautiful day. When we shot that little piece of information on the Barossa, it's a beautiful day today. In fact, I think we shot it today. Blue skies above as we watch now the riders on the way to Lyndoch for the first time. And, well, it could be a desert right now. They've broken away from those lovely eucalyptus trees and they're in the full sun here.
They are, with temperatures just creeping up to that 40 degrees Celsius, 105 degree Fahrenheit mark. This will probably be the hottest day of the week because the long-range weather forecast is saying that it's going to cool down a fraction. But these guys, they're professional athletes. They've raced in conditions like this many times around the world, in places like Qatar, places like Oman, so they know how their bodies are going to react to the heat. And the most important thing is, early on in this race, the referees actually allowed the riders to start taking on drinks after just 15 to 20 minutes into the race. Normally it's after 50 kilometers, but the race referees also looking from a safety point of view to make sure that these riders have the ability to keep themselves well hydrated in these conditions.
Damien Howson is the dedicated man for Orica Scott. He's never won a bike race for the team, but he is a terrific domestique and a very strong bike rider, particularly in the time trial. A couple of years ago he finished second in the World Time Trial Championship, so he's got his place on the team, very much so. He's the workhorse, just to keep De Vries under control for the minute.
And Peter Sagan there in the white jersey. He was not complaining at all about the heat. In fact, he doesn't complain about anything at all. We talked to him as well, Phil, just a couple of nights ago about the Olympic Games where he rode in the mountain bike, and he said that, well, I had a flat tyre, yes, when I was sitting in third position, but everybody knows it's the rider's fault in mountain bike races if you have a flat tyre.
It's the way you bounce that bike, I guess, but he's a very modest champion indeed, enjoying his ride along, smiling just now. Maybe we'll catch a glimpse of Esteban Chavez shortly, because it's a special day for him. He celebrates his 29th birthday today, I think it is, Paul.
27th.
27th, beg your pardon, 27th, all right.
Yeah, in fact, I forgot to wish him happy birthday last night as he rushed away to get to bed early to get himself in condition for today's stage.
He'll be in there somewhere.
There's Jarlins and Pantano just going through. A lot of changes as well on the Trek Segafredo squad. They'll be looking after a sprinter this afternoon when it comes down towards the end. Edouard Toons, I mentioned just a little bit earlier on, he had that very nasty crash in the Tour de France where he had a fracture to one of his lumbar vertebrae. and it's been a long, hard ride back, but he's motivated here to shine with the team. The team seems to be reinvigorated. They've taken another notch up with the addition of Alberto Contador here. Jarlins and Pantano could be the man that they'll look at to do well in the hills, because he had a fantastic season last year with a stage victory at the Tour de France.
It's interesting, isn't it? There in the World Championship bands is Peter Sagan. On a relatively quiet section of the stage, he's still at the sharp end of the race, keeping an eye on what is going on. He's always alert and ready to go. We're looking here, Lawrence de Vries, the leader on the road, and of course at the moment the leader of the race, but he's got to keep this gap all the way to the finish, and that, I think, won't happen today. 19 teams, 18 of them on the World Tours. We open the World Tour season. Just looking here, there he is, Esteban Chaves, second in the Tour of Italy, third in the Tour of Spain, and he's now 27 years of age today.
Yep. His nickname is Chavito, and I thought that was just a diminutive of Chavez, but in fact he explained to us last night Chavito is a Mexican comic, a comedian from Mexico, and this guy looks just like him, and he smiles an awful lot like him too, because we could not wipe the smile off his face last night as we talked about this race and how excited he was to be part of the Orica squad here in Australia.
1:30, that's clearly signs of no chase down. They're just letting him run a little bit. He's been up to over 4 minutes, he's been back, and now he's holding 1:30, and he's closing in on the finishing line at Lindok, and he'll start his 3 full circuits, 81 kilometers out at the moment.
Yeah, that's 50 miles to go to the finish. We should be at the finish line inside of 2 hours. And you can see the attitude of the main field, Phil. They know that once they start to accelerate, they can very easily pull this lone leader back. As we see there, the 1 kilometer, well, unfortunately for him, that's 1 kilometer to the finishing line. But once he crosses the finishing line, he's still got 80 k's to go.
Yes, he certainly has. And once on the circuit, of course, the riders are going to warm up to the chase. Still, man that broke away as soon as the flag came in, down by Mawson Lakes there. He's now coming through with a lead of about 1.5 minutes. We get very accurate time check when he goes under the banner. And cheers all the way. He's got the polka dot jersey of King of the Mountains to pick up tonight. Most a courageous rider, I would think he'll probably get that as well, so it's not all in vain. The Barossa Valley, of course, and its fertile vineyards. And they've had plenty of rain, which is unusual when everybody seems to be extremely happy with the extra rain they've had in the weeks gone by. We're back to hot sun now. But they said maybe not this grape harvest, but the next one they really expected to reverberate around on the grapes after that wonderful rain that they've had. It's the greenest I've seen this place in about 18 years, I must say.
Yeah, they certainly needed it for a long time. It was definitely the driest state of the driest continent, and I think everybody extremely satisfied with the rains that have come in over the last couple of months.
Trek on the left, Lotto on the right, and Orica in the middle, and Sagan of his new team at Bora Hansgrohe in his white World Champions jersey. The boys on the left here look like they're all Australian national champions, but in fact this is the Uni-SA squad, and they always do something in the race at some stage. They've actually won it before with Patrick Jonker as well, who now works on the event. 140 they're saying, 80.4 kilometers, and the crowd making plenty of noise for a very brave man to go out in the oven conditions today. But he knows now he's got 3 full circuits to go.
At this point in his breakaway, Phil, that he starts to look over his shoulders and thinks, well, it seemed like a good idea at the time when I went out on this lone move, but I could have done with a couple of other guys with me to share the pacemaking. The peloton certainly haven't started winding up their chase after him as they go under the 1 kilometer to the finishing line banner.
They're not going to rush at this one just yet. They know once they start chasing down, they'll cause others to launch attacks. The timing representing a gap of 1.3 kilometers, which is, if you talk in old money as the English do, that's about a mile, slightly less, slightly more. That's what you do with your old bike, I guess.
Yeah, certainly do. Just looking at the back there, Phil, and I know you're a railway buff. Well, in fact, there used to be a passenger railway here into Lindok, which operates between 1911 and 1968. And unfortunately, it's not in use anymore.
That's a real shame. I'm sure somebody one day will try to bring it back. And if you notice, the gauge too is a little bit wider than the English gauge. I don't know why that is, but it's for sure any trains coming out of Great Britain wouldn't fit on those tracks. Peter Sagan pushing his way to the front. You won't believe how many people are in Australia to watch this man make a triumphant return, because since he last rode this event, he has gone from obscurity to superstar. And he's absolutely loved being here. He arrived 2 weeks before this race began with his wife, and he's done some great training. And I think we're going to talk about him a lot this week.
I think we're going to talk about him a lot today, Phil, because as we see, you can see the gap there, about 1 minute and 3/4. He put in a very good sprint in the People's Choice Classic, which was just on Sunday night, but I think he was just trying to find his sprinting legs, and it was a short event. It was only 50 kilometers long. I think after a tougher race like today's, a longer race like today's, he'll be a lot closer to the finish.
So as they continue on, they're facing 3 full circuits before the wheels roll to a halt. And no proof of that yet, but we still expect all of these riders to fight out a bunch sprint. And will Peter Sagan take on Caleb Ewan, if that's the way it's going to be? The long straight road ahead now, and it really looks a lonely place. He's done the stretch into the finish town. Now he's got to go and do 3 laps around it, and out into the country again for Laurens de Vries. A pro, he first started with Top Sport Flandern back in 2011. Astana snatched him up in 2015. That was his first appearance on the World Tour. Well, it'd be tough peddling that, but it is a nice piece of artwork by the local farmers here. Bravula there. I don't know how he's found the breath to blow that. Still, he's doing very well.
Well, at least he's not using too much of his breath to power that machine, because he's actually got a little mini motorbike there.
Good point. There's the left turn for the peloton now. Chance to look at Peter Sagan. Team of Caleb Ewan, Luke Burbridge on the left in the blue there, just chatting. They just got through the feed station. Quite a bit of conversation going on in the peloton today as they all say hi for the first time this year. This is Peter Stettner here. As Paul has said, he looks like D'Artagnan with his new style beard.
And the man with the full set beard just opening up the carbonated drink on the left hand side in the red jersey of Lotto Soudal. And of course the winner to the top of the Mont Ventoux, well, not quite to the top of the Mont Ventoux, to the Chalet Renard in the Tour de France last year, and that of course Thomas de Gent. A lot of pressure though, Phil, on the shoulders of Caleb Ewan, but he did say after his victory the other night that he was really happy to have on board the new signing Roger Kluge, who moved across from IAM Cycling to Orica Scott, because there's a guy with a serious track pedigree, second in the Olympic Games in the points in 2008, second in the World Madison Championships, and he has been brought onto this squad to be the final lead-out man for Caleb Ewan. Well, they got it right on Sunday night.
They did, and he quickly thanked him. There's a nice shot of Miles Scottson there, the new champion of Australia. Came to the line in a break of 14, very unusual, a very tough circuit in Buninyong in the state of Victoria, about 1,000 kilometres away, I guess, from where we are at the moment. And he just thought, well, I'm never going to beat this lot in the sprint. It was his first big pro race, and he just slid off the back and then attacked them from just over a kilometre out, and he won.
But he'd actually planned it from the night before, because he put a slightly larger chainring on than everybody else. He had a 54-tooth chainring for the aficionados on the front, so that if he made that last move, he had the bigger gear to keep it going all the way down to the line, and that gamble paid off.
Great to have your company. This is the Santos Tour Down Under, the 2017 version, 19th edition. Can you believe it? 20 years next year. And of course, Unley to Lindok today, 145 kilometres. And in the end, it will be a race for the sprinters. Caleb Ewan, of course, last year, he won the People's Choice Classic. Then he backed it up here, Robbie McEwen, with a win in stage one. Let's talk tactics. How do they play this one out?
Well, this one, on paper, is pretty straightforward. It's what we often see in these sort of stages. You'll get a young adventurer, or maybe a slightly older adventurer, go out on the attack. And in today's case, well, that's the Belgian, Laurens de Vries. So a run-of-the-mill sort of setup. A guy gets away. Most would expect a group. It's going to be a long, hot, lonely day out there for de Vries. He's probably asking himself at the moment, and even asking his team director, is this a good idea, what I'm doing out here? But at least being out there, he's getting his team colours out, up the road, he's amongst the race, and there is some incentive. Peloton not letting him get too far in front, and honestly, they'll just hang him out to dry, literally. Let him just find his own way back to the peloton, just about. One team leading, Orica Scott for Caleb Ewan. He's the out-and-out favourite for this stage. We saw it in the Classic. He's got speed to burn, so they're going to ride all day. The incentive for being out there for Laurens de Vries is exactly this, the Subaru King of the Mountains. So he's won that. He's gone through the line. He will be pulling on the leader's jersey this afternoon on the podium. So that's his reward and the incentive for getting out there. Also intermediate sprints with those time bonuses available. But I'm sure he'll be going through his mind more than once, what have I done to myself?
Yeah, he'll pay for it over the next few days. And that's what we heard quite a bit through the interviews that you conducted earlier on in the program. These guys are talking about, what do? I don't want to cook here.
Yeah, a lot of guys just thinking about this heat, being hydrated. A lot of riders even on the start line with a stocking full of ice cubes down the back of their shirt, on the back of their neck, to try and keep the body temperatures low. That's what we're concentrating on all day, just staying hydrated, keeping the body temp as low as possible, thinking about the rest of this race, because it's going to be a very long week, especially with out here in the Barossa Valley, a 41-degree day in the saddle really takes it out of you. But let's not forget, there's still the stage to be won, and a big sprint is expected again here in Lindok. Like last year, we saw Caleb Ewan take that win. Orica Scott, they'll take control. They're just going to ride on the front of the peloton all day, but steady tempo to try and just make that catch late in the race to then start setting up the sprint. And that's when you see the lead-out trains come into action. The team's trying to bring their sprinters. Look, left of picture, Daryl Impey bringing Roger Kluger and Caleb Ewan. So getting in a line, and it's about being organised and then strong enough to go at the right moment. Today's a difficult little finish because it's going to be a headwind. You're going to have to choose the moment very carefully. But precision like the guys showed, the Orica Scott riders here in Sunday night's People's Choice Classic. Roger Kluger brings Caleb Ewan within 200 metres of the finish, lets him loose, and he's just an absolute little bullet taking the win. Just behind him, Sagan and Bennett, they're on the same team. So they could be the guys who could bring Caleb Ewan undone. And a lot of other riders starting to find their legs now. First race of the season. They got the People's Choice Classic out of the way. Bit of a warm-up. They'll be ready to fight for the win today.
Caleb, your tip for today?
He is my tip for today. I think he's still the fastest, and he's got the best condition at the moment. He's got a number of races already in the legs in 2017. That's a definite advantage. And that goes for a lot of the Australian riders in this peloton. They've raced nationals, they've had a couple of other races. So they've got a bit of a head start on the Europeans that come out here trying to battle for those World Tour points.
Now, if you want to grill Robbie, you can grill him on #AskRobbieTDU. Keep it nice and clean, of course, but he'll endeavour again to answer all your questions.
I look forward to the questions. I love answering them, but yeah, give me some curly ones, but keep them racing focused.
Santos Tour Down Under, great to be here.
Well, there's the peloton in the main field, 73.5 kilometres. Movistar have come to the front, those dark blue jerseys now as well, but nice little tempo riding. There's no real effort being made here.
No, but once they start to get out onto this course, Phil, they do have to be careful, because there is this blustery wind that's coming across the riders' shoulders in different directions as they go around this circuit in the finishing line. And if you get caught out at the back, I know that Orica Scott, they're a very clever team when it comes to tactics, and they will do anything they can to try and pull a few seconds back here or there. And if they see the opportunity of pulling a few seconds up over Richie Port, for example, they will take advantage of the crosswinds.
Yeah, Helicopter staying high above the grapevines. We don't want him blowing the berries off the bush. Ready for the harvest, which is about March time, and they start bringing in the grapes. Looking down at the peloton there, a total of 132 riders. 133 makes up the field of 19 teams of 7. But late minute replacements because of sickness, and in fact the Team Sky lost Duel, who has been sick since he arrived here and was unable to start, and they just managed to bring in from Queensland their new recruit Kenny Ellison, a Frenchman who was up in Queensland training with Chris Froome, and they flew him down yesterday. He's ridden the race before, but for Team AG2R, and he's very happy to be here, but 24 hours ago he didn't know he was coming.
Yeah, and it was a quick jump onto a plane to get him down here, and that's because Team Sky want to support Sergio Henao, who finished in 3rd place overall in this race last year. And Kenny Ellison said himself, he said, look, I'm a pretty good climber, I know this race, and I'm happy to come alongside and work for Sergio Henao, who does a lot of work for the rest of the team throughout the year, and he's a new signing for Team Sky, having come across from FDJ.
Just about a kilometre away now from the first of 2 sprints. They're the IINet sprints, and these also carry small time bonuses, although with every respect, the 3-second bonus for this first sprint for De Vries, I don't think it's going to be much use towards the end of the race. But if you remember a couple of years ago when Simon Gerrans won, Paul, he took part in the first sprint of the race in a week. He got a 1-second time bonus. That was how he won the race.
This race has been won and lost because of the time bonuses over the years. But just coming down to the sprint point, Phil, you've got to love Australia, haven't you? The first King of the Mountains was called Humbug Scrub. Well, the next sprint point is called Cockatoo Vale.
Quite right too. What a lovely place. There's plenty of cockatoos fly around here. There's a couple of different types. I think the common one is the yellow, the sulphur-crested one. That makes an awful noise. Wakes you up in the morning. They used to be protected and you couldn't shoot them, but I'm afraid that's changed now because they've got so many of them. Still working away at the front, Damien Howson. Still a very young Australian. As we pull back, we can see the leader as he heads in towards Cockatoo Vale. Let's see if we can find the peloton. There they are. So that's a nice little relationship for you. As they'll make a left turn up here.
Well, they've pretty much got it under control now. They know they don't really have to organise a chase behind him because he's going to come back into the main field later on of his own volition as they start to accelerate and they start to get themselves organised for the sprinter on the final lap of this race. And that's when we'll start to see the pace in this main peloton change quite dramatically. And once that pace changes, for the moment, we're looking about 20 to 25 minutes behind the scheduled time of the finish. And the reason for that, Phil, I think, is because of these hot climatic conditions.
No time change at all. Still at 1 minute 40, so they've just had a little test to see if they can catch him, and they've shut off again. There is a sprint, though, for 2nd and 3rd place at these sprint points in the town. So we'll see who goes for the times here, because, as I say, long term can be crucial. And you think that Richie Porter's lost this race by 2 seconds, 9 seconds and 12 seconds, never won it. He's among the favourites to win this time out. These seconds can matter.
Well, it'll be interesting to see when we come up to the sprint points, in fact, if Peter Sagan has a crack at trying to get himself the time bonuses, because there's still time bonuses available, 2nd and 3rd across the line, 2 seconds and 1 second. And I spoke to the team manager of Peter Sagan the other day, and he told me he wasn't going to try in the People's Choice Classic. Well, that was good information, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. He crossed the line in 3rd place, but out-sprinted. He wasn't led out by Sam Bennett. Sam Bennett, in those last 50 metres, his teammate produced a superb finish for 2nd place. 2:25 they're saying on that board there briefly. But we'll wait for confirmation of that, but it is still holding now at 41 degrees Celsius just at this minute in time.
It's about 107 degrees Fahrenheit, so quite a warm day. There's the swing over to the left-hand side into Cockatoo Vale. The one rider off the front will take up the maximum points at 3 seconds, but more importantly, it's the 2nd and 3rd place rider across the line. The guys have been in the saddle here today for 2 hours and 11 minutes.
Wasn't a bad conversion, that 107. It's actually 106. That's very good.
So, you know, I try to do these things in my head as quickly as possible.
You can just say it's hot, really, and you'd be certainly right on that. Well, they're all getting a little show now, the Orica Scott boys. That's Luke Derby's. They call him Turbo Derbo, has got to the front. He's sitting on very good form, by the way. He medalled in the National Time Trial Championship and had a very good road race as well a couple of days later up in Bunninghong in Victoria. And the other rider coming up there is also their South African rider, Daryl Impey. He's the third wheel of the three boys in blue. So the signs now, they're getting a little bit twitchy here.
Well, you can see the new squad on the block, UAE Abu Dhabi on the middle in the black and white jerseys. The darker black and blue jerseys of Team Sky, they're getting themselves lined out as well. They're going to take this sprinter extremely seriously just for second and third position, because as we said a couple of times, Phil.
Well, they're approaching the sprint at Cockatoo Valley under the INet sprint point. A 3-second time bonus now. That puts him ahead of the field by 3 seconds, even if he gets caught. But he's going to have to worry about the winner today. He'll get second place. Now we're getting the race into the second place sprint now, and a much more active approach towards the line now. With these small bonuses, Caleb Ewan might want to get in on the action. And he's tucked in at the back of the line of riders. No sign of the white jersey of the world champion, so Peter Sagan deciding he's not going to be too interested in this. Daryl Impey doing the lead out here. As they continue now, a big lead out by Daryl Impey here. As they continue up, Caleb Ewan is right tucked in, but a nice little move coming over the top here, and that looks to me as Nathan Haas having a go from Dimension Daughter and taking him on now to Dimension Daughter. This is Mads Pedersen on the line. Oh, it could have been Dimension. Well, we'll have to wait for the photo, but it was a very, very close finish.
It just goes to show how serious these guys are about grabbing a second here or there.
Ben Swift was in on that mix as well. New colours for him. Used to be on Team Sky. He's the rider in third place just at the moment for the his new team. Let's have another look at that. He's in the Abu Dhabi colours now. Let's see if just who got that. The race for second place.
Well, you can see it's definitely Daryl Impey there trying to lead out in first place. Behind him is Simon Gerrans. Then you've got the acceleration over on the right. Nathan Haas looked like he got it sorted out quite perfectly with Mads Pedersen in the red jersey on the right-hand side coming forward. Definitely Nathan Haas, but it's pretty close for third position.
And Gerrans knows the importance of those small time bonuses. It's worth his weight in gold over the years gone by. He's a 4 times winner of this event. We will wait for the referees, if they can get the results to us, to see how that pans out.
The rider in the sprint there, Phil, for Bora Hansgaard was in fact Jay McCarthy, who won a stage of this race last year. And there's the man who won the sprint. You can't really call it a sprint. It was a long, lone attack by this man. His gap now hovering at 1 minute and 40 seconds. But just looking at his pedalling style, I think he's starting to pay for the heat.
Can't blame him for that. As we look along the desert area around the Barossa Valley, he's still 2.5 laps away from the finish of this race, and still the same man leads. A little bit of a chat going on here now, and I think in fact they were asking each other who got the sprint there, but a shake of the head. I don't think Simon Gerrans feels he got a place in that sprint. In the end, he got a little bit tight up to the line. No doubt who got the 3 seconds, and we'll get the result as soon as we can.
It looks pretty much as if Nathan Haas did manage to hang on, but I think the decision, Phil, it's going to be very difficult between a number of riders for third place.
And we're just receiving news here that the race has been shortened by 1 full lap of the course. Now, if that is the case, they're going to go through to cover only 2 laps of the circuit instead of 3, which means if they ring a bell, it'll be when they get to the finishing line this time.
Well, it could well be, Phil, that they've put into place the climatic conditions rule, because Reports from out on the course say that the temperature is officially above 40 degrees Celsius, so we'll have to wait for complete confirmation from the race referees on that one.
Well, at the gap of 500 metres, De Vries here has realised enough is enough. He's going back to the pack here. But it looks as though they have applied the weather conditions rule, and because we're in excess of 40 degrees, they've shortened the race route. And it's only just been announced, as far as it's come up on our computer just now. We didn't hear anything official, but if it's true, they will go through with only one lap left to race.
So you can just see, I think, looking at the pedalling style here, De Vries is certainly paying for this very long, hot ride in the sun here this afternoon. It's gone over the 40 degrees Celsius, and if we can get confirmation that the race organisers have decided to take off a lap, I think they are going to apply this exceptional weather conditions. They have to be very careful allowing athletes to perform in conditions like this.
Oh, I thought for a moment there that spectator was going to ask him to put his thumbs up and smile. Well, I don't think he's in any smiling mood just now, but he's certainly doing a great ride in these conditions. You can see the roads here are rolling and they are tough.
Well, Phil, I'm getting onto the Twitter feed of the BMC racing team, and they're also actually saying that the Tour Down Under stage today will be shortened by one lap because of the excessive heat on the race this afternoon at 41 degrees Celsius.
Well, that will bring the course distance down to 118 kilometres, but we will confirm it, and we should see a bell this time through if that is the case. Peloton just carrying on. They've got the lone man in sight, but they're going to have to chase him down pretty quickly now if there's only one full lap to go. It looks like a flying bicycle today on the Santos Tour Down Under. This is the opening day of the race, and the heat has won the first day by the look of it just now. South Australia is the perfect place to try something new, like glamping in the stunning natural environment of the Flinders Ranges, which you can then use as the perfect base to explore the national park's 540 million year old landscape. Or for a true luxury experience, check into the Southern Ocean Lodge, set atop a secluded cliff along a rugged stretch of Kangaroo Island's coast. It's the ultimate in sophistication, while being lost in the wilderness of this great southern land. Well, as we look down on the race now, we are receiving confirmation that the race has been shortened by one circuit, one finishing circuit, because of the extreme weather conditions. So the race distance will come back from 145 kilometres to 118 kilometres. So as the riders continue to chase this one man, when we get the bell at Lindok, just one lap to go. We're now joined by Robbie McEwen, and fresh out of the sun, he's still sweating here. Robbie, have you heard about this?
I've just heard as I walked in, Phil, and a lot of the teams are talking about on their social media feeds about it being shortened. Also, one of the reasons why the team would keep a breakaway in check, because they would have been aware that this was a possibility. If you suddenly give him 5 or 6 minutes and then the race is shortened by a lap, you could really do yourself a disservice and lose the stage. But De Vries was maybe hoping for that. But honestly, in this heat, he's found his own way back to the bunch. He's nearly been caught, and the bunch is just rolling along. Everybody's suffering in this.
Yeah, but you know, you've raced in conditions like this. It's extremely difficult. It's not necessarily for today that you can put the riders into difficulty. It's for the following days, because it's getting into that dehydration situation. It's not something you can recover in 24 hours. You could destroy a whole race by racing in weather conditions like this today.
That's absolutely right. And you've got to take into consideration that a lot of these riders have come from Europe. They've come out of the cold. It really is a shock to the system, and you've got to look after the riders' health. It's only day one. It's the very first race of the season for most of these riders. So I think it's a sensible and the correct decision to take on a day like this. Some people might say 41. It's not too bad. Try it yourself. Get out there. I've just been standing out there. That was enough.
Yes, well, this man, he might well be being told here, he's got a race radio on, he's smiling, and maybe management's just told him that he's only got one lap to go. But he's got the field right up behind him now. They're still not coming to him, but take a look at that. Oh, you can't see him again now.
But race organisers now, Robbie, all around the world, whether it's the Amgen Tour of California, the Santos Tour Down Under, they're very cognizant of the riders' safety and the riders' health, especially when you either get extremely cold conditions. Sometimes in races like the Tour of Italy, you've got snow and hail. Here you sometimes get heat. You have to think about the riders' careers.
You do, because it also becomes very dangerous. We've seen riders in the past have problems in the heat. They've fallen off because of heat exhaustion. So you really do have to be very careful. And 118 kilometres, it's not that long. It's only maybe 2.5 hours of racing now, but in this extreme heat, it really saps the body. You see the peloton, they're really not that keen to wind up the pace. You might think, well, why don't they just go quicker and get it over with faster? But you've got to be very careful and dose your energy on a day like this. And they were just looking up the road and seeing De Vries and thought, well, you don't really have to chase, he'll just come back. Then I noticed De Vries to get into that sort of aero time trial position, and looks like he's starting to have another go, thinking, well, 1 lap to go, I might as well give it everything.
I think you got the message. The race has been shortened, and I think, let's have a look. We'll show you the stories so far anyway at the moment of this opening day of the World Tour, Santos Tour Down Under. It all began in the little enclave of Unley, about 5 kilometres away from the headquarters hotel in downtown Adelaide. Scheduled for 145 kilometres. The weather was well known at the start time of 10:30. Getting hot and hotter. Mike Turter gave the start to the bunch of 133 riders, and then they continued to saunter, but almost immediately one rider decided to pedal away from the field. Laurens de Vries going clear.
That's him on the right-hand side in the turquoise jersey of Team Astana. He managed to build himself an advantage of 4.5 minutes at one stage, and that started to ring the alarm bells on the Orica Scott squad, and they started to bring his advantage down. First of all, it came down to 2 minutes, and then as we got closer to the top of the King of the Mountains point, where he was still looking for Subaru King of the Mountains points, his gap was down to 1.5 minutes.
He continued on, and not knowing yet that they were about to consider reducing the race by 1 lap of the finishing circuit. The race was under the escort of Orica Scott's Damien Howson, and the other riders alongside him there, the American Peter Stettner on Trek Segafredo. The gap came down to 1 minute 30. He would expect that. 1 kilometre, but not 1 kilometre to go. It was the entrance into the finishing town of Lindok, and at this point there were 3 laps still to be done. He pressed on as he continued now to the first sprint in Cockatoo Valley after 74 kilometres of the day covered. Obviously no contest, a 3-second time bonus.
But more importantly, what was going on behind was the sprint for second place in 2 seconds, and Nathan Haas, wearing number 52, was the fastest rider to come to the line. But look how quickly Jay McCarthy came up alongside there, and it was a photo finish between Pedersen and Jay McCarthy for third position and a single second.
Still awaiting confirmation, although it looked as though Pedersen may have snicked that 1 second bonus. The field, though, continued on. The announcement has been made to the riders that the race is being reduced by 1 lap. Just when they had this man in their sight at around about 500 metres, I think his team told him. And now he started to go clear again.
Yeah, but I think once these sprint teams start to get themselves organised, we'll start to see that he's going to get himself wound back in very, very quickly. 36 kilometres now is the official distance to go. The time advantage, 15 seconds. It's about 200 metres.
Yeah, absolutely nothing. Those solar panels down there, you get the value out of them with weather like this, I must say. 36 kilometres still to race towards the finish here, and I expect to hear a bell when we arrive back in Lindok for the one final circuit to go. They're really toying with Laurens de Vries now, as they just Movistar have taken a bigger interest since they've heard the announcement. They've got 2 riders on the front of the race here. Jose Herrada is 132, and 131 is Jascha Suterlin, who isn't a bad sprinter as he sits on the front. Number 11, of course, that's the world champion, Peter Sagan. No complaints for him about the decision, I'm sure, and happy with the situations so far. So just on 36 kilometres from the end of this stage. Well, tomorrow, Paul, if this weather persists, and it's possibly not going to be quite as hot, it's going to be really tough in the Adelaide Hills, and then coming across to the finish at Paracombe. It's already the toughest stage from the topography situation, so they could have a tough day on their hands again tomorrow, and there's no finishing circuits tomorrow to reduce the race by. Field must start to chase very soon now as the kilometres count down.
Well, there is the lone leader, you can see, and he's right off the front end of this main field. I'm sure if he looked over his shoulder right now, he would see the whole of the mass of the main field starting to bore down upon him. But Robbie, making efforts in conditions like this, it is completely different to the way that the heart and the lungs react.
It is. Even just that hot, dry air into the lungs, it just completely dries you out from the inside out and also the outside in with that sun on your skin. And you see riders often in these sort of conditions, they go off with the best intentions, full of motivation. Although I've got to say, De Vries's attack wasn't so much an attack as just riding a kilometre an hour faster, as if the others were saying, well, if you really want to go, we'll let you go, because none of us want to be out there. But you just end up drifting back into the bunch on your own because your body just gives it up.
Anyway, don't forget you can follow us at Tour Down Under on Twitter, hashtag TDU. And of course, if you want to really get involved, you can ask Robbie McEwen some questions, and we've got a few popping in right now. This is from Brad Anderson, and he wants to know how much weight could a rider lose in hot conditions like this one today?
Well, that's actually a very good question. And in terms of weight, it's the moisture that you're losing out of your body. So as you get dehydrated, obviously water weighs something. A stage like this, if you don't tip in as much as you can possibly get through your stomach, getting dehydrated, you could probably lose 3 kilo on a day like this, even though it's this short, because it's so extremely hot. But riders and also their team doctors are very aware of the situation. They're advising them to keep drinking, stay hydrated, stay on top of it. It seems so simple, something you wouldn't forget in this heat, but they keep telling them to do it. You've got to force it sometimes so you don't get dehydrated and lose that weight.
Well, there's another question coming here from James Owen. So, can Caleb Ewan ride for the win today, Robbie?
Well, it seems obvious to probably everyone. On last year's form on this stage, he won it. He won the People's Choice Classic on Sunday night with blistering speed. He's the man in form. He's got a number of races in the legs already. He's fully warmed up and I'd say approaching his top form. Yes, he can win. But I've just gone through that start sheet with you, Paul, and we've identified a number of other sprinters in this race. They've now opened the legs up on that first People's Choice Classic on Sunday. Plenty of guys ready to take him on.
Well, I like this one, and this is one I would like to ask you as well. Do you reckon Peter Sagan will go for gold this week, or is it too early in the season?
For Peter Sagan, it's never too early and it's never too late to go for gold. If there's an opportunity to win a race, Peter Sagan's going to take it. He said today, or on Sunday night, he was trying to ride for Sam Bennett, who ended up second and Sagan third. If they can get that cohesion a little bit better, something like Roger Kluger and Caleb Ewan, then maybe one of those guys can win the stage. Peter said this morning, maybe not yet today, but I'll look day by day, and if I get a chance, of course, I try to win. He's Peter Sagan. Sometimes he doesn't try and he still wins.
Well, I just remember, and I go back to 2010 when we saw him in a lime green jersey, and we didn't know who he was at 19 years of age. We certainly do now.
Oh.
They've been running now, boys, for just 2.5 hours, and they're going to find themselves knocked off by about 45 minutes short now. The race will be today. Leaving Williamstown with the peloton. Next stop is Lindok, and I fully expect to see a bell rung.
Well, I just think, Phil, reducing that race by 1 lap is a very sensible decision by the race organisers, because we're on day 1. We've still got 5 days of racing to go after this, and racing hard in hot climatic conditions like this could change the outcome of the race overall. And I think it's very sensible of organisers all around the world nowadays to look at this and impose these extreme weather condition rules.
But in fairness, the riders themselves have utilised this race today. Once they got De Vries up the road, one man's never going to beat them, and they've potted along and enjoyed the day roaming around the Barossa area here on the Santos Tour Down Under. Crowds will be bemused perhaps a little bit by the situation. Just
Getting a result, and I'm not sure that I quite agree with this result, because it certainly did not look like that. They're saying that Simon Gerrans was third at that sprint point, although to me it looked very much as if it was between Jay McCarthy and Mads Pedersen. So I think before giving that out as an official result, I'd like to see it coming actually from the officials.
There's no actual line on the road, at least I couldn't see it, so we'll wait and see. Lovely crowd now. All the security cars going through there behind the peloton.
I was just thinking, Robbie, just looking at the laboured style here of Laurens de Vries, he looks as if he's having a hard time just getting his bike going forward.
He's almost asking the peloton to please come and get me so I can just take some shelter and ride my way. And he realises he's not going to make it. He's just waiting for them to come and mop him up. But yes, very laboured. Most of the day, it looked like once they got him back under control, and within a couple of minutes, he sort of started to sit up, hands on top of the bars, a lot more relaxed, and almost challenged the peloton to come and get him so soon.
Different attitude in the main field now, though, Phil, as we start to see for the first time today the peloton stretching out into that very long line, and it's not at all a surprise to see Orica Scott on the front making most of that pacemaking.
Well, we've done Williamstown now as the peloton stringing out. Interesting, in a long straight line now. The pressure is going on. They're going to end the agony of Laurens de Vries pretty soon now as they start to line up for the final circuit of Lindok. He's flexing those legs now as he continues to freewheel away from Williamstown, and we've got a little bit of a ride still up to the end of this lap.
Well, 18 miles, 30 kilometres. It should take these riders about 40 minutes to get down to the line. They have been through the finishing line. They've had that dress rehearsal. They know just exactly what the wind conditions are like. And they were quite blustery. Well, the wind was actually coming from the left-hand side of the riders when they come into the finishing line. So you've got to be very careful how you organise that lead out and try and keep yourself right up against the barriers and forcing anybody who wants to beat you to come around the other side in the headwind.
The last circuit is 27 kilometres, so we're only about 6 kilometres from starting that final lap now. Still Damien Howson anxious to keep this bunch in touch. You just get some idea, though, you know. De Vries, I'm not so sure he is waiting for this peloton. He's going to see what happens, because these boys are really winding it up now.
But it's only one team for the moment who is doing that pacemaking. The gap has stretched out again, Phil, to around about a kilometre distance between those riders, and at speeds like this that'll correspond to around about 1 minute and 25 seconds. But I have noticed that Team BMC are starting to get very attentive. Richie Port moving up into third position. Now, I'm just convinced that Richie this year is going to make sure he doesn't lose any time on any of these intermediate stages, because he knows that this bike race is won by seconds, and he's lost it by seconds in the past.
He has indeed, and last year it cost him dearly. Into Victor Harbour, in the matter of 500 metres, he lost 8 seconds. Simon Gerrans won that stage, taking the time bonus as well. Put all that together, Richie Port lost last year's Tour Down Under on the Victor Harbour stage, not uphill. So he knows the importance. So BMC being very careful, keeping him at the front. Also Rowan Dennis, a definite two-pronged attack from their team.
Doubled his lead in the last half hour or so, when it looked as though he was surrendering to the pack. So De Vries could well be in front when we go out on our final circuit. Looks a very lonely figure across the vineyards just at this moment in time as well. Yes, well, Guerrero knows the values of those sprints, and he'd be very happy if he snicked a second, if that's confirmed later. There's a nice relaxed style of the Belgian cyclist on Team Astana, which is a team, Astana being the capital of Kazakhstan. Down to 700 metres, our computer's saying now. Behind the railfield, just doing what they have to do. It'll all change once they get through Lindok. Nice smile from Richie Port. He's from Tasmania. He's never seen weather like this.
In fact, he spent a bit of time training in Europe during the inter-season, and it was so cold up in Europe he decided to train on a virtual machine.
Richie there, happy to get this one over with, that's for sure. Tomorrow, very different mentality approach to the stage, a stage that could shape for the whole week of racing as we finish up Paracombe after some tough hills across the Adelaide Hills. Long empty road, we're now bound for the Bell as we approach Lindok.
Welcome back to the Santos Tour Down Under. This is 2017, the 19th year of this wonderful race as we travel from Adelaide all through the beautiful parts of South Australia. The colour, the movement, the characters. We get crowds over 800,000. That's how many people came and watched the Santos Tour Down Under in 2016. We saw 107,000 for the People's Choice Classic, and the crowds are huge again here for Stage 1. Now, last year we introduced the fan cam. How good is the fan cam? And doing it last year and doing it again this year is a man that won an Olympic silver, dual Commonwealth Games gold medalist, bronze medal in the World Championships, all-round good bloke, and he's doing a fantastic job for us, Johnny Stephenson. Let's have a look what the great Steph has been up to.
Adelaide is alive and pumping, and I cannot begin to tell you how much is happening here at the Santos Tour Down Under. Now, I'm here at the Bupa Family Day Ride, where it's not only going to be Stage 2 for the women's race, but also the People's Choice Classic for tonight. But that's not the only action that's happening around here on the roads today. The Santos Tour Down Under isn't just about the biggest names in cycling. There's events like this one. Mate, now tell me, you look like you're nice and relaxed. How good is this? The Bupa Family Ride, which allows anyone and everyone to ride the exact course these pros will ride for 1 whole hour.
Can't beat it. Can't beat it. It's a great spot to cycle.
Did you guys get any sleep last night?
I got half a sleep.
How good is this? A long time coming to Tour Down Under?
We've come to everyone since it started. My son is really supporting Richie Port, so to be able to do the circuit is awesome.
How am I doing a good job?
You're doing a really good job.
Steph's killing it. Now, there's lots of charitable events happening throughout the Tour Down Under, and one that stands out is the People's Choice Undies Run for Bowel Cancer Awareness. Now, I've got Nisha here who's running with a group of girls for a very special reason.
My sister-in-law and our girlfriend, Stephanie Crofts, was diagnosed with stage 4 bowel cancer 3 years ago, and unfortunately on the 2nd of December she passed away. So we're here to honour her memory and remember the amazing person that she was.
She took part in the race last year, if I'm correct.
This is our 3rd year, and in that time we've probably raised close to 20,000, I would say. They've turned something that's quite a negative disease like bowel cancer into something that's positive and fun for the day.
You know, $20,000 is magnificent, so I'm sure she's watching from above thinking, who is that guy interviewing him, and he should have his undies on as well.
Well, I think we're all thinking the same thing.
This week has something for everyone, whether you're a competitor or a spectator. The Santos Tour Down Under has to be on your bucket list. I'll get you water. I'll get you water. It's all good.
Oh, the colour and the movement of the Santos Tour Down Under. Johnny Stephenson. One thing I did forget to mention, on the board of Athletics Australia now, bringing your mate Usain Bolt out to Australia in February. You're doing all sorts of stuff, but at the moment it's all about cycling. What's it like to get out there amongst the people?
Yeah, fan cam. It's quite sad. I actually tell people, they say, what are you doing, John, this week? And I say, I'm actually working, but it's not work. I get to hang out with the people, beautiful people of Adelaide, taking the tour down, and I love my sport, get to see all the sights and the festivities that comes along with the tour, and it's been completely, every year they bring something new. Like I never did the undies run before, and never thought I'd ever run on live television in my undies, but I did that. So it's been fantastic, and I've got a lot more things we're doing over the week, and I'm sure you're going to watch them throughout the episode of the stages of the tour, and also the broadcast of the Santos Tour Down Under.
Yeah, as we see the parade coming through, and you can hear the police sirens, and of course the lights are going off, and we are in stage 1 of the Santos Tour Down Under. Now, John, you're a mate of mine. Look, I'll eat a burger, you'll eat a caraway seed. But the first time you did the Bupa Challenge, seriously,
there he goes.
You could not walk. We went to an Indian restaurant, you couldn't eat a chop. Last year you did well. Are you going to do it again?
Tim, we went over this the first year. It was a very hard year for me. And you know what? I've come prepared this time round. Did it last year. I killed it. I've come back again. I rode with Phil Liggett, and he says, Steph, you've got all the tools to be great at this. So I'm ready, Tim. So I need you to encourage me. I need the positivity so I can make sure I can get through this booper ride, because it's not for kids. This thing is not a game. You've got to be serious when you do the booper ride.
How much are you going to do with it?
How far I'm going to go? I always do the whole lot. Oh, that's not tricks on film and television yet.
Well, you're looking good, mate. I see more fat on a chip than you at the moment. So all the best with the Boober Challenge. We'll see you throughout the course of the fan camp, getting the job done, doing a wonderful job with fan camp. So much colour, so much wonderful movement here at the Santos Tour Down Under as we reach a pivotal stage here in the first stage, of course, Unley to Lindog. Let's get back to commentary.
Reckon this guy is still hanging on in there. We're looking for Lindog now, and then that one circuit to come.
I always think the main field are a pretty nasty bunch of characters, leaving a guy like this out on his own just to fry in the midday sun. He knows he's going to get caught. They know they're going to catch him, but they're just allowing him to suffer that little bit longer.
They're sort of playing with him like a yo-yo. Just let him out a bit more, pull him in a little bit, say, no, not yet, we'll just leave you. Just, you're not quite done yet. They've stuck the fork in him. They got close enough. Just put him out there, cook him a bit more, and eat him up in that final lap.
Good to see Richie Port right in the middle there in the red and black jersey, and he's being very attentive.
He's being very attentive, and he's been really working towards this race. He wants to win it so badly, but he's not only been working on the bike. A few days ago in Adelaide, everybody's talking about this hot weather now, but a few days ago it was raining. Richie Port said, I'm not going to go out riding in the rain, but I want some physical activity. He went and swam, as he put it, a cheeky 4 kilometres in the pool just a few days ago at our Unley pool. So keeping the fitness up there, and I think today the pool at the hotel will be the most popular area when the riders get back there.
Well, he'll probably win that one, Robbie, because of course he's an ex-triathlete and he can do it all, can't he?
Yeah, but I just get the feeling he's hyper motivated to win this year, and he knows that it's so important. Now look at that, everybody getting involved. Tour Down Under, the bidon toss. That's for the bottles. I wonder if anybody's going to get that.
One. Oh, missed. There's only one realised what it was, and if it had come out a few more laps, one came a bit late, slipped in from the back, that one. Everybody taking part in the atmosphere.
I was just thinking about Caleb Ewan, though. They've held him back, Team Orica Scott. I know he wants to ride the Tour de France, he wants to do all the big events, but they've kept him, I think, because they realise he's a kind of guy who can have a very, very long career. I mean, we've talked about him for a few years now, and he's still only 22 years of age. That's a lot of pressure to put on a guy's shoulders.
It is, but he accepts that pressure. He actually thrives on it. He loves it. But it is very easy to forget that Caleb Ewan is so young still. He's been on the big stage since he was 17, winning at the Bay Series criteriums early in the year, already for so long. They have held him back a little bit, but in his own best interest. And they're saying he'll ride the Giro this year. He's got one Grand Tour stage win in the Vuelta, and it was a ripper as well. When you've got Peter Sagan and John Degenkolb behind you, and your first Grand Tour stage win, you've got the goods. He's itching to do more, but they've also got a luxury problem at Orica Scott. Esteban Chavez, the Yates brothers, able to ride GC in all the Grand Tours. Where does the sprinter fit in, and how many guys does he get to take with him? So he's really got to still establish himself in the team to get a bit of that balance of power towards himself to win some more stages.
But he did mention last night how happy he was to have Roger Kluge on board, a guy who's got an incredible track background, and he was quite important in getting the victory for Caleb Ewan. But they've not been riding together for too long, and that's what happens in this first race of the year. Sometimes we talk about the lead-out trains and the lead-out man and the pilot fish, but you know, for some of these teams it's the first time they've really got together in a competitive situation, and you can make mistakes.
You can, but again, Roger Kluge, very experienced with his track background. He's very aware of what's going on around him. He's a fantastic six-day rider. You know, the Madison, when they're slinging each other in and changing positions constantly. So that's a great guy to have on board, as well as he's very fast in his own right, and he is a massive unit. It's like sitting behind a truck for Caleb Ewan. I actually had lunch with Caleb yesterday, and we were talking about Roger Kluge, and he said, it's not only good that he's big, but he's also wide from top to bottom. He's a very solid guy, because Caleb's so small that he can be almost underneath Kluger's saddle. If he wasn't wide through the legs, he wouldn't get a slipstream, but he creates a huge slipstream behind him. Caleb said, it's so nice behind him.
300 metres for the peloton here as they go through now on what is their final lap of a circuit that should see them come round in the bunch finish, but nonetheless they still have to bring back the man who's been out in front since the start of this long day today, shortened by the heat. Laurens de Vries still heads the field, a lap to go. So the field have rolled under that kilometre board, and finishing line has gone by as well, so we're going out into the country now for the last time. Some 26.5 kilometres from the finish through the feeding station. I think they've been largely taking on just fluid all day today, mostly.
It was interesting what Robbie said just a few moments ago. If you're not careful in a race like this, you can lose up to 3 kilos in body weight. But once you start to lose that amount of body weight in fluid, you're losing up to 15 to 20% of your body's efficiency, and that's why it's so really important to keep drinking all of the time. But it's pretty tough to drink the amount of water that you need to on a day like this.
It's very hard. A lot goes over the head and over the body, of course, to keep the outer skin cool down a little bit. All of the helpers there of the teams. It's a very skilled job, that, reaching your riders and not causing a massive pile up. Very dangerous job too. Left fork in the distance, just kind of see anybody out. Yes, you can just see him there, top left of our picture, the lone figure of de Vries. He knows now he's on a wing and a prayer. He knows they're going to chase him down.
The other thing about the hot conditions, if you look over to the right hand side, you can also see the vines are starting to ruffle just a little bit, and we're looking at the finishing line. The wind looked like it was coming from the left hand side, so the ideal position is to have your lead out men let you sneak up the inside there. And I think the fact is, when you've got guys like Luke Durbridge, Daryl Impey, and then the final lead out man for Roger Kluger, they've got the ideal lead out squad, but everybody knows exactly what Orica Scott's tactics are going to be, and there's going to be a big queue behind them.
And there'll also be a queue right up next to them as well. A lot of riders now, no one's got an advantage in this finish because they all get to have a look at it. If you've ridden it last year, no advantage over the newcomers this year. When I was down on set just a little bit earlier, I watched the riders come through on their first time through the finish line, and right at the front of the bunch, Peter Sagan having a very good look around, checking out the flags, the direction of the wind, sizing up how he wants to ride the sprint. And like you said, Paul, really blustery. It's that hot desert wind saying, welcome to Australia, fellas.
It really is. You can see the eucalyptus trees on the right-hand side, and that, again, I think is why we've noticed that Richie Port from Team BMC, he's paying attention to stay up to the front, surrounded by all of his teammates. They're saying that gap there is 1.1 kilometres, but I'm not sure it is anymore, because I think just at the end of that straight, they had Laurens de Vries very much in their sights.
Still appear to be moving at a gentle pace, but it's speeding up all of the time.
Great to have your company. This is the Santos Tour Down Under, of course, stage one, the hostwork stage one. Unley to Lindok in pretty hot conditions, close to 40 degrees today, and this will be a sprint finish, and the man that many think will win this race is Caleb Ewan. But we're right in the middle of the Santos Women's Tour. It's been fantastic this year, and I'm very happy to say we're having with us right at the moment one of Australia's greatest ever female cyclists, Kate Bates. Kate, you've been following the Women's Tour. It's been brilliant.
It's been brilliant, and the men, you know, they're dealing with the sweltering heat today, but the women, they've been dealing with it for 3 days now, and I'm very pleased to say the Aussies have really been dealing with it very well, and they're on top at the moment. Amanda Spratt has the lead.
which is brilliant, of course, and 17 teams, over 100 competitors. To watch it grow, it began in 2015, grew a bit to 2016. A lot of people have done some amazing work to get it to where it is right now.
Well, and of the 17 teams, 11 of them are international and representing 16 different nations. So it's quite exciting because really the world has its eyes on Adelaide and on women's cycling.
All right, it finishes tonight, 4 stages. It'll cool down a little bit, but it's a criterium tonight.
It will be. I mean, it's over 40 degrees, so even an hour of criterium racing, it's quite full on. But Amanda Spratt, she just needs to defend her lead. She's got quite a good team behind her, and well, I'm confident for her that she can do it.
All righty, good to talk to you, Kate, as always. Let's have a look at the highlights of the women's tour. So here we are seeing some of the highlights from stage 1, and it's really, look at the crowds came out to watch as well.
Well, stage 1 was quite difficult. I think the riders were a bit intimidated about what was to come because there were a few small attacks at the beginning, but Orica Green Edge were all over it. They had some very steep climb toward the edge, and you can see that Amanda Spratt, she really took the race into her own hands. Janneke Ensing, the Dutch rider from Ale Cipollini, but Amanda Spratt took quite an emphatic victory. At the end, Janneke Ensing was second, and the bunch galloped in for the third. And then, of course, they raced around the Criterium circuit last night, 2.3 kilometres for stage 2 of the women's tour. Well, we expected a sprint finish, but not everybody in the bunch was quite as resigned to letting that happen. So they raced quite hard from the gun. There was a lot of tussling coming into the last lap, Tim, and we had a lot of Australian favourites. Chloe Hosking was probably the biggest name, and Nettie Edmondson. Those riders were 1-2 last year, but the lead-out train from the Silence Pro Cycling team, well, it was pretty incredible and pretty hard to beat. And as they approached the finishing line, well, their rider, Kirsten Wild, she was victorious, and she did it quite easily. Chloe Hosking came across in third place, and she was very pleased with her effort. I thought that she may give us a little bit more in her criterion, but actually she said that stage 3 would suit her a little bit more.
And this is stage 3 here, of course, in the Barossa Valley as well, yesterday.
So they headed out, actually they finished here in Lindok yesterday, and the temperatures were already climbing. So they did some laps around Lindok, around Whispering Wall, and the bunch split up around each. It was a very aggressive race, Tim. You could see that no team was resigned to letting Amanda Spratt and the Orica Scott team win at all, and the Australians were very motivated to get out there and make it quite difficult in what were hard conditions in the heat. But ultimately, quite a large bunch came into the finishing straight, but a very good result again for the Australians, because Chloe Hosking, well, she got even, and she took the victory here into Lindok yesterday, and she was just absolutely over the moon with her victory. Very good result.
Yeah, well, it's going to be great to see the final stage tonight. Your final thoughts, Amanda?
Well, I think Amanda Spratt can definitely take the overall win, and to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if Chloe Hosking went for another stage win today. She's got nothing to lose, and she's definitely got a lot of speed in her legs.
It's just growing and growing, the women's race. What wonderful athletes, and the crowds and everyone getting behind the women's race. Good to talk to you, Kate. Let's get back to the men's race, because all important stage 1 thanks to Hostworks. Let's see how it's all going to finish. Let's get back to commentary.
Well, the sun coming off the left side of the picture as we look, the right shoulder of the riders, 21 kilometres left to go. It's almost as if they're keeping the brakes on, isn't it?
Yeah, I think they're just waiting. They don't want to catch that lone leader too far out from the finishing line. We're looking now at 21 kilometres, which is just around about 13 miles of racing. And sometimes, Robbie, when you get to a situation like this, you actually want to leave the guy out there until the last possible minute and maybe pull him in around about 10 kilometres from the end.
That's right, I mean, but they're pulling the cars out now, so they are coming up on him. But they want to leave him out for a long time, discourage others from going on the attack. With the guy up the road, others aren't inclined to go out on the attack, but they are just about to finally mop up the Belgian from Astana, Laurens de Vries. It seems to be more due to the fact that there's teams riding at the front. They must be a little bit worried about this wind. BMC on the top of picture there, in the middle, AG2R for Pozzovivo. You've got Quickstep there riding for Gianluca Brambilla. He's a climber, but they're thinking about the rest of this week and not losing any seconds. So teams starting to mass at the front, but they're not the sprinters teams yet. But when we get closer to the finish, that will change completely, and those GC riders and their teams will be really battling to stay near the front as the fast men start to take over.
So it's coming up 3 hours since they rode, Paul, and you know, even though they've taken one big lap out of the course because of the slow average speed today, without that one lap, we'll only be about 5 or 6 minutes quicker on the scheduled time.
Yeah, that's right. It's a long race. You can just see the little bit of perspiration on the back of his shorts there. And Robbie, I was just thinking, you talked about the possibility of losing up to around about 3 kilos, but what sort of volume will you take on board in a race like today?
As much as you possibly can, Paul, and it's almost impossible to replenish everything that goes out of your body, and we saw that on the salt-encrusted Belgian. Not sure it's always on the menu, but it certainly is today. But you'll put in something like 10 litres on a stage like this. Much more than that, your stomach really can't cope with, and even though you're still thirsty, getting dehydrated, it gets to the point where your stomach starts to reject the fluids that you're trying to put in, and you sometimes end up throwing up. You just simply can't get more in.
Well, surely they're going to bring you back very shortly now. Once you reach for your bottle, he looks as though he's actually turned off completely now, Laurens de Vries. It's been a long day. For nearly 3 hours he has been alone beneath the hot South Australian sun. There's the catch now, and he's going to come with plenty of time to organise the sprint finish. The flag of Australia in the backdrop indicating just for the moment it's a crosswind. From the left of our picture as we look,
what this is going to mean, Phil, is they'll pull him back into the fold, and just a little way up the road we'll be coming up to the second and final sprint point, and I think we'll have a massive big charge to the line. I never really got the third position finisher of that first sprint point, but we did notice that Simon Gerrans was very attentive looking for it, but he's put his cards on the table now, hasn't he, because everybody else who wants to win this bike race will be keeping a very close eye on Simon Gerrans.
They will, and Gero has won this race 4 times. He knows exactly how to win it. He's won it by mere seconds in the past, so he knows how important those intermediate sprints are. And there we finally have the catch. Laurens de Vries back in the group, and as the Italians will now say, Gruppo Compatto.
Yes, Martin Velic as the rider has brought the Quick Step team into the action now. The race is all together for the next sprint. Who's going to make the next move now, because there's no one up front as far as we know. There's no one behind either, which means we've got a pack here now of 133 cyclists. Anyone will start to fancy his chances. The team start to decide on their tactics now.
Big question is who's going to get themselves organised. Over on the left hand side I can see the black and white jerseys of the new Sunbird squad. They'll look after their sprinter for today's stage, Nikias Arndt. In the middle, it's the UAE Abu Dhabi team. They'll be trying to look after their sprinter, Ben Swift.
Well, Paul, we have been talking a lot about Caleb Ewan for obvious reasons. He's a man in form. He already won the People's Choice Classic. We talk about Peter Sagan. When don't we? Doesn't matter what the course is. We're going to put Sagan in as a big chance. But there are a lot of other sprinters here. Guys, like I said, they've come from Europe. It's their first race of the season. They've got that 50k of racing in the People's Choice Classic under their belt now, and they're ready to really race. I'm thinking of a guy like Edward Turns, the Belgian from the Trek Segafredo team. He's coming back from a broken back last year. He was out of racing for 6 months, finding his groove again. 5th in the People's Choice Classic. Good sprinter, winner of stages in the Tour of Belgium in the past. So his team will be getting him up to the front. And I think it'll be quite a sea of red with Katusha, with Trek, with Bahrain. There's so much red in the peloton. It's going to be pretty hard to pick them out as they now start to wind up towards that intermediate sprint. It's Team Dimension Data. Left-hand gutter, and it's UAE on the front now.
Well, they'll be looking after Ben Swift if they can, and that's it's a good attempt to get themselves organised up there. Tyler Farrar looking over his shoulder. He was looking for his team sprinter there, Nathan Haas.
Didn't find him at all.
In number 16 there, you can just see number 16
Jay
is Jay McCarthy.
Simon Gerrans.
Position now. Jay McCartney's in the third wheel. And remember, small time bonuses could decide the next destination, but I'm a bit surprised we're not seeing other contenders moved into this. Well, that was a nasty move across the road.
It was Tyler Ferrara getting himself out of the way. Up in about 4th position there with the yellow helmet is Simon Gerrans, being very attentive. He wants to make sure he gets those points if he can. 3 seconds for the first rider to cross the line.
Well, when we get a head in view here, I'll tell you what, this is Team Katusha trying to pull it away at the moment. Gerrans is not going to, he's in 3rd place, Gerrans. Well,
Jay
McCartney finished with a terrific sprint there, and we sensed that Jay McCartney is on good form, and I think he's just shown us he's up for the fight. He takes a 3-second time bonus at a crucial time. So the riders having already passed through the hydration station, the sprinter Jay McCarthy taking the situation as well. Everybody now eyes down for the next finish line, which will be the finish. We'll just have a look at the final sprint here. It's just happened and it's been taken out by Jay McCarthy. A very, very solid sprint. It's the 2nd one in Cockatoo Valley. All the fields together. As we're looking now at the field here, perfect lead out here for McCarthy. Simon Gerrans tried to get in on the action because there's a bonus at stake now, and nobody else contesting it, nobody up front. A lot of heads turning around to see just who is trying to come up into this sprint. Tyler Farrow looking where his teammates were, couldn't see them as they now line up. The big man there, number 5, looking for Simon Gerrans, is Luke Durbridge. Gero is up on the inside. He's locked onto the wheel of number 16, Jay McCarthy.
Such a clever bike rider, Simon Gerrans. He knows exactly which wheels to follow. He's right on the wheel of Jay McCarthy, and there you can see just switching out of the way. That was Tyler Ferrara. He doesn't want to get involved in this because he noticed that Nathan Haas was nowhere to be seen.
And as they continued, this is the first chance they get to spot the line here. They started the sprint a little bit early, I think, but either way, they're going to give it a good big wrap row. Right now, I think it's Vicioso on the front here for Team Katusha. And the line is McCartney, but they delivered an excellent blow. In fact, it was Jose Gonçalves who has gone over there in the 2nd place, I think. Well, since that happened, we've now gone up the road a ways, and this is Jan Bakelants who's gone clear. That's what I call a cheeky move.
Very cheeky move. Now, this is a guy who's been on AG2R for a couple of seasons, but he's really well known to us for leaping out of the pack, and not many people can do that on a stage of the Tour de France and hold off the whole of the main field. And he was it was in Corsica, the island of Corsica, when he did that. He won the stage, and by a single second, and that single second gave him the overall victory. It changed his life, really.
It really did change his career, that stage win, and pulling on the yellow jersey for a couple of days. Jan Bakelants, the Belgian from AG2R, and it's a typical move of his, and it's a great tactical move. If you're looking to get away in the final part of the race, you've got to look for that opening. Perfect opening provided with that intermediate sprint, everybody going full gas sprint, and then having to sit up, recover, hit straight over the top and get that gap. It was interesting to see Gonçalves win the sprint, the Katusha rider, the Portuguese, former winner of the Tour of Turkey and the Tour of Portugal. So a very handy GC rider, and taking himself 2 bonus seconds behind Jay McCarthy, with Gero coming in 3rd by my reckoning in that sprint.
AG2R, though, is a team that is always good at the Santos Tour Down Under, and a guy like Jan Bakelants, you can't give him 30 or 40 seconds on a run into the finish like this once we've got inside of 15 kilometres to go.
Now, you can't afford to give him too much, but they'll be very aware of who's up the road, and they'll just keep him in eyesight, and they'll just start to get organised again. I think we'll pretty soon see Damien Howson go back to the front again like he has all day. Just keep that tempo where it should be. And there he is, right in the middle of the picture on cue. Damien Howson just making sure in this little drag uphill that they're not coming to complete stop. But look at them starting to mass at the front. The Sunweb team on the left of picture, and their sprinter is Nikias Arndt, a proven performer, and the big German with him, Phil Bauhaus, very big, very strong, sure to provide a good lead out. So there's a lot of sprinters here, and a lot of good lead out men have come along with them. It shows you the importance of this race. The teams really consider this an important start to the year. They want to get off on the right foot and try and get a win. So Sunweb up there looking motivated.
Well, you've got the new colours there on the far side, all reds this year, Robbie. It's going to be a nightmare on the running towards the finish. And Bahrain Merida, their sprinter, Bonifacio, he's already finished in the top 5. And look at that temperature there, 42 degrees Celsius. Well, we'll be tickling very shortly 110 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yes, and Jan Bakelants, the Belgian rider here, has gone clear, rides for a French team. And this is a very serious move at the moment.
Well, I have to say, if we're going to give Man of the Match award here, it's going to have to be for Damien Howson, because he's ridden something like a 105-kilometre individual time trial. Now the moves are starting to come at the front end of the main field, because this is a move from one of the Lotto Soudal riders trying to jump out of the pack. Looks to me as if that might be Adam Hansen.
It is Adam Hansen. Makes his own shoes, so he knows he's going to be comfortable today as he breaks away. This is a good move. Well, another cheeky move, and he'd love to get across to Jan Bakelants. He knows the strength of that man.
Well, if those two riders get together, you've got the recipe for these guys spoiling the party for the sprinters on a day like this.
Well, this is sure to bring a reaction now. Adam Hansen is a very intelligent guy. He doesn't do things by chance. He really would have thought about it on these previous laps around the circuit, seeing there's a rider in front. He sees an opportunity, and look at the gap he's opened up so quickly. Hit over them up that hill. Howson was on the front. Straight away, cross that gap. He will go for home and give it everything.
Well, it's interesting that the riders believe it's not going to be a sprint finish, as a Belgian and an Australian are going for gold ahead of the peloton.
And sitting at the back end of the main field, in fact, is Adam Hansen's teammate there, wearing number 61, the man who won on the slopes of the Mont Ventoux in the Tour de France this year, Thomas de Gent. And he's also said that he'll be looking for a little bit of success later on in the week, and it's not his first visit to the Santos Tour Down Under.
Maybe that'll happen tomorrow. Miles Scottson, the champion of Australia, put his hand up there. He wants another drink as well. So we're now on board here with Adam Hansen, who's ridden 16 Grand Tours in a row and finished them all. A most incredible, and that in itself is a record. What a record. And he's going to try to add another 3 this year. He's now trying to reach Jan Bakelants.
And we talked a lot about the climatic conditions. Well, this is one guy who won't have any fear at all of the hot weather here this afternoon, because, I mean, I always like to remind people, in the early part of his career, he won the Crocodile Trophy on 2 occasions, and that was a very long, hot distance mountain bike race up in the Northern Territories, up in Queensland.
And it's back in the day when it used to go across the desert, so very similar conditions to today. You also saw on Adam Hansen's time trial skin suit, so he's wearing the aerodynamic suit today, getting every bit out possible. You saw the salt crusted across his shoulders there as well, so the rider's really suffering in his heat. Taking Hansen quite a while to get across this gap to Jan Bakelants. Of course, no slouch, so it's going to take a good ride just across the gap. I wonder if Bakelants knows already that he's on the way.
I tell you what, this is a very interesting diversion. We've talked all day of sprinters, and here we've got 2 extremely strong riders we call stayers trying to get away from the field. And they're not waiting for each other. I think maybe Bakelants knows he's going, because he checked to see where he is, but he wouldn't have seen him. Oh, he might now.
Well, I think Hansen looks a lot more comfortable. He's got a very good high cadence going there. He's peering around those corners, just trying to see if he can gauge his effort to the back wheel of Jan Bakelants. And I think if the two get together, well, we may not be talking about a sprinter's race.
I still believe we'll be talking about a sprinter's race,
but you're a sprinter.
Not till the very end. But that's how the sprinters like to do it.
Well, there's the peloton. And more interested and preoccupied with drinks now. Amiel Moignard at the back there, number 24. Same team as the man who we think might do well by the end of this race, Richie Porte. As we look out across what is becoming to look a sun-drenched, rather dry Barossa Valley now, after the rain it's had in recent times. Peloton, we're going to have to work this one out. They won't be too happy with this. 2 good guys on the attack. Jan Bakelants would just love to be joined by Adam Hansen. The question is, will he catch up, and will they stay away? The Santos Tour Down Under is much more than a bike race, it's a festival of cycling. Unleashed Gourmet Gala Street Party has been running now for 15 years. And I'm told many of the revellers returned this morning to see the riders off on today's stage. There's also plenty of ways to participate during the week, like the Bupa Mini Tour for kids and the Bupa Challenge Tour, both on the very same stage as the pros ride over later today. There's plenty to see and do in the Adelaide City Council Tour Village as well, and it's also the place the riders prepare each morning. Or you can just explore many of the fine food and wine destinations that enhance the atmosphere during the week-long celebration of what is all things on the two wheels. We are now back with the leader, and it's no longer Laurens de Vries, it's all change here now, but it is a Belgian rider, and Jan Bakelants is waiting, maybe, I don't think he's waiting, but he's hoping he's going to be joined by the fast arriving Adam Hansen from Team Lotto.
Well, the official distance between them is giving us 15 seconds and then 36 seconds back to the main field, so everybody has got the group in front just about in their sights. I think the sprinters are biding their time, Robbie. I think I do agree with you. They will get themselves organised as we start to get to the last 5 or 6 kilometres. When we come into Williamstown and take the left-hand turn, that's the point when they've got 10 kilometres to go to the finish, and that should take them around about 12 or 14 minutes to the finish line.
And they'll want to keep these guys well within their sights. You can't afford to give them more than 45 seconds, I would say, with 10k to go. They will be riding into a headwind, so they'll be sitting ducks more or less into that headwind, but very, very difficult to stay in front. But once they wind up, I think they'll bring them back fairly smartly.
Well, this is the lone leader, and of course Jan Bakelants has got himself about 10 to 15 seconds advantage. And don't forget, you can get involved with us here at the Tour Down Under. Follow us at Tour Down Under on Twitter and hashtag AskRobbieTDU. And don't ask him too many complicated questions. I wouldn't like to know exactly what happened to Spider-Man there at the side of the road. But here's a good question coming in from Brian McIntyre. Robbie, did you chat to fellow riders in the peloton much? And was there anyone in the peloton you didn't get on with? You don't have to answer.
Well, let's put it this way. In the last kilometre, I didn't get on with anyone. Rest of the day, I chatted to a lot of blokes, had a lot of friends in the peloton, and you know those moments where there's a break out the front, a team's chasing, you get a bit of a chance to sit and have a chat. We get a whole bunch of Australians congregate somewhere down towards the back of the peloton. You could always hear where we were before you could see where we were. A lot of laughing going on and good times.
But it's not at moments like this when you get the good times. This is a question coming in from Jacob Port. Where do you think the national championships will be held in the upcoming years?
Well, we have seen it in Ballarat for a number of years. They've done a fantastic job, although I have been proposing, along with some other guys, for a change of circuit each year. I'd be quite happy for it to stay in Ballarat. The way they organise the event is first class. But maybe a change up to give other types of riders a bit more of a chance. Some people say, oh, the sprinters can get around there. Not really.
We'll get the check there. It's 45 seconds now for Jan Bakelants. So he's going to be a hard man to pull back. We've got one more question coming in now. Of course, this is about one of the big favourites. Richie Port was looking quietly confident this morning. Is this his year?
I think it is. I think he's due for a win. He knows the small mistakes he's made in the past, and he's out to rectify those, not lose those valuable seconds in these flat finish run-ins. And I think he's going very well. Let's not forget, he finished his season last year in Rio, on the road, with a broken shoulder, where he hit a tree. So he was off the bike early, recovered from injury, started training early in October. So he is fully prepared for this race, and he wants it.
Well, he knows exactly what he needs to do, and so too does this man, Adam Hansen. He wants to catch Jan Bakelants just up the road in front of him.
As we watch Adam Hansen here now rock and roll his way around a very shifty left-hander there. He's having to work hard, Paul. He's not making a great deal of progress on Bakelants, but the peloton got them both in the sights. The spread is 45 seconds.
Yeah, but it's one of those things, isn't it? When you make that first move, Robbie, you've got the inspiration, you've got the excitement to make the move, but it's then consolidating afterwards when you realise you've got 15 seconds over the main field. The hard work begins.
It looked like Adam Hansen got 75% of the way across to Jan Bakelans, but it's just that last bit couldn't quite cross. And it looks to me like Bakelans has gone further away from Hansen now, who his body language, it's not quite the same as that first 3 or 4 kilometres that he was away, and he'd come around this corner, look up to the crest, no sign of Jan Bakelans. So Bakelans, he is not interested in waiting for help, and Hansen, when we look back, I think once the peloton round that bend, they will see Hansen, and there they are.
And that's also psychologically not a good thing for Adam Hansen either, is it? When you look round there and you can see the main field, you know you're not going away from them anymore.
No, it's what the Flemish and the French like to call a chasse patate. When you try to go across, you don't make it, you get stuck in no man's land. But it was a good attempt. It was a very difficult time in the race. Well, maybe Adam Hansen is struggling somewhat with the heat, and he's not going to get across, and he will be reabsorbed by this peloton, who will now set their sights on Jan Bakelans, because we're at 10k to go.
I'll translate that one for the Australians, Robbie. Chasse patate means you're looking like a bag of potatoes. And he does, really, doesn't he? I tell you what, though, he's got a savage position, Adam Hansen. Have you seen how far forward he has his saddle?
Saddle right the way forward, very high position. Bars slammed with a stem that points down, and also 38 centimetre handlebars. Most riders would ride about 42 width of handlebar. Adam Hansen is a big guy, but it's all about the aerodynamics. Every gram he can save, every aero advantage he can get, he goes for it. But it hasn't got him across the gap, and here comes the bunch.
Well, let's have a little look at the heart rates as well, because we were talking about this yesterday. Lucas Hamilton's heart rate now has got up to what I was expecting it to be when the race is on, just tickling 170 beats a minute a few moments ago. Adam Hansen's, I would think, would also have been right up there at 170 to 180.
Here comes the cavalry, wiping out the Queenslander, Adam Hansen, putting him back in his place, leaving the peloton versus one man now. Jan Bakelans is the rider in the lead. Oh, this man's in trouble. He's doing no what's at all, Jai Hindley.
I think he was going downhill at the time. Well, we do what we can to bring all these telemetry and information into us on the finishing line. And now I think, Robbie, I'm bending more towards your side now. Having seen that Adam Hansen wasn't able to get across, I think we'll start to see the teams of the sprinters have a much more concentrated last 10 to 12 kilometres.
Yeah, and for the first time today, we've seen another team come and get involved. It was a rider from Dimension Data, then Luke Durbridge has now come to the front. So fresh horses, as they say. Durbo come to the front, really winding up the pace. You'll see this gap really starting to melt now. That typical style of Luke Durbridge, great time trialist, former under-23 world champion in the time trial. An integral part of this Orica Scott team, and the lead out and preparing the way for Caleb Ewan as he swings off and gets assistance. And also they're in the red colours, the UAE Abu Dhabi team, and they'll be riding for Bonifacio.
Yes, and that man in the colours there is I think he's Grabbe, isn't it, who's in the colours on
it's Jacob Venter, I think, for
Venter. He's in a white jersey.
Yeah, he's in the South African National Champions jersey.
He is indeed, yeah.
And he'll be thinking about their sprinter. Well, I'm not sure whether it's going to be Mark Renshaw today. They may well be trying to get Nathan Haas up there.
I'll have to excuse myself. Abu Dhabi will be riding for Ben Swift. Bahrain will be riding for Bonifacio. But again, it's the red colours and getting everybody mixed through each other.
You've got problems, Robin. Think about poor old me.
Well, it's a nightmare, the start of the season, especially when this year was a lot more complicated because there's teams swapping sponsors, changing jerseys, different bikes. Anyway, we'll get there by the time we get back down into Adelaide on Sunday.
5 kilometres to go. There's got to be a chance here. There's got to be a chance for Jan Bakelans. So I suppose my two ex-professional commentators here will say there's no chance at all, because the peloton will try and drive him down. Luke Durbridge was the last man we saw driving at the front. We call him Turbo Durbo. I can tell you, he's got great form just at the moment, Luke Durbridge. He put in a wonderful road race championship in Buninyong, and he took the silver medal behind Rowan Dennis in the national time trial title. He's got good form.
Well, Jan Bakelants is one of those riders who could possibly pull it off, but the fact that we're coming on a big, long, straight road into town, it's going to give the main peloton chances to put their average speed up to 60, 65 kilometers an hour. 40 miles an hour the main peloton will be charging along here.
The man doing all of the driving just now is the only Ethiopian rider. He's ridden the Tour de France. It is Gramey, Zagu Gramey. And alongside him, how times have changed. Another African rider, there he is in white, Jaco Venter. He is the champion of South Africa, and showing the pace here with Luke Durbridge. Boy, the Africans have come, Robbie.
They have come, and they've come fast and in numbers. And at the moment, it's the numbers making the difference. A lone rider in front, and these riders swapping turns of pace on the front. They're just eating into that gap, and I think he's lost at least half of it already with just over 4k to go.
Yeah, but being clever, I think Orica Scott sitting in the wings, just waiting for the moment to take control and try and set it up for their man. And the way to win races like this with a lead-out train is to have the full firepower right up until the last 250 metres.
So we see Orica Scott there using just one rider at a time. They've used Howson all day. They're now using Luke Durbridge in this final 5 kilometres. He'll stay on the front until Jan Bakelants is caught, and after that we'll see the likes of Impey and Kluger guiding Caleb Ewan into the finish. The question is, how good are these other teams already? After that warm-up, if you like, on Sunday night, the People's Choice Classic, they're really ready to race and take on Caleb Ewan, so it's going to be a massive battle of the lead-out trains to take control.
They are flying now as we head towards town, but take your hats off to Jan Bakelants because he's still out there. Not very far though, I'm afraid. We're on to the outskirts now, into the 60 kilometres an hour city limit, town limit here of Lindok, and that is the gap. We've been riding for over 3 hours and 20 minutes today, but the pressure's on now. The man that wins the stage is practically assured, with the 10-second time bonus for victory, of pulling on the leader's ochre jersey tomorrow. Oh, you can feel those legs.
You can, and it looks like Bakelants is feeling that breeze coming into his face now as he rides down this long straight road, the approach to Lindok. It seems never ending when you're on it. It's so long and straight, you can't see the end, but the peloton can certainly see Bakelants, and they're almost going to run him over.
Oh boy, get out of the way, and they immediately go round him here. It is the Ethiopian rider on the left who's taken up the pace-making. Damage and Data are fancying their chances too, using Jaco Venter, but they've got some great sprinters on that team, not least Mark Renshaw, who probably will get a lead out from Tyler Farrer, and maybe even Nathan Haas, who's also sprinting well. The reason we can't see the riders so clearly is because we're looking behind the 1 kilometre to go banner. Current heart rate on Lucas Hamilton is 186. He's almost matched his number there in the Uni SA team. The field are spreading right across the road now, Robbie.
I feel that's the Sunweb team. We spoke about them earlier, middle of the picture in the black and white. Next to them, Dimension Data for Mark Renshaw. So the battle of the black and whites versus the reds, and expecting the blue colours of Orica Scott to come to the front with Caleb Ewan. There he is on the left of picture, just coming up towards the front now. Impey in front of Roger Kluger, the big man in blue there, and Caleb Ewan, well, it's in his best interest not to be seen just yet. Hide in that slipstream of Kluger. Stannard from Sky swings off, trying to place Danny Van Poppel, their sprinter. Impey looks behind. He's lost his teammates. Sunweb at the moment are the best organised. And where is Peter Sagan?
Nicholas Arndt is the rider they've got in third wheel there, as everybody tries to scurry round. And where is also Caleb Ewan, because he's a little bit of a way down just now.
Caleb Ewan in about 8th position, and just on his left behind him, following him through, is Peter Sagan, looking to bump someone off, and he's just lost the wheel of Caleb Ewan. Ewan is back with his teammate now. Peter Sagan is a bit more in the depths of the peloton.
Well, we've got a rider in white who's gone. It is Peter Sagan. He's broken very, very early. That's caused an immediate panic here. His teammate Sam Bendis is locked onto his back wheel now. But this could be and coming from the far right is Caleb Ewan. And Sagan realised it's all to no avail here. Van Poppel is also trying to come through. But Ewan is unbeatable at the moment. Danny Van Poppel, I think, in second place. Robbie's not so sure. Let's just have a look again. Sam Bendis as well. We'll wait and see from the helicopter. It's hard to tell.
Photo finish, Phil.
Definitely.
Great lead out from Sagan for his teammate. We saw in the People's Choice Classic they were second and third. They didn't get it right. We spoke earlier about them, that cohesion they need. Sagan has provided the lead out for Bennett. He's gone from the front. We saw Ewan range up. The camera just wanted to go to Ewan and film his win, but it was a lot closer than that. And I don't dare to call it.
Okay, well, let's see if we can show it again, because the situation now, it says that the pelotons. So what you're watching here now, Sagan went very, very early. Bennett broke. It was a lead out for Bennett. Through the middle comes Danny Van Poppel. Caleb Ewan is on the left of our picture. Oh no, that's me. That's Ewan for me.
Oh, the helicopter shows it clearly. Caleb Ewan, Danny Van Poppel and Sam Bennett. Bennett, I think, made a mistake by looking so much to his left-hand side, looking at Caleb Ewan. You see him, he looks once, looks ahead, he looks across again. Van Poppel trying to come up the middle. You've got Nikias Arndt there as well. And from the UAE team, I think that was Ben Swift coming in fourth or fifth place.
This is the one that reveals all. Underneath the camera. And who's got second? It's Van Poppel, I think.
Yep, Van Poppel, Bennett, and then I think Ben Swift came through in fourth place. So a fantastic ride by Caleb Ewan. He squeezed himself up the left-hand side along the barriers, had to get around the Sunweb rider to get some space. I noticed him hit one of those manhole covers and skip his back wheel a bit. But once he got underway, got that head low, that aerodynamic position. I have a look at his head, lower than his handlebars. It's no good trying to go from behind him. He's just too low. There's no slipstream there, but it was extremely close. Last year here, he won at a canter. This time, he had to throw with everything he had. Look at that, head down, everyone fully extended. He looks across to check, but he knows he's got it. And the smile starts to spread across his face, or maybe a grimace.
Well, I'll tell you what, that was a big sprint and well pulled out there by Caleb Ewan. He's repeated history from a year ago. He won the People's Choice Classic on the Sunday. He opened with a victory on stage one when we arrived on the same finish from Prospect last year. This time we've come from Unley, slightly further away, although it's not now because we've knocked quite a few kilometres off the race. And this official distance now will come down from 145 to 118 because we've hit 42 degrees today out on the course, and they've applied the health regulations. So there is the winner, and we can go down to Paul Sherwin, who knows him pretty well now. Paul?
Well, Caleb, a very hot day in the saddle, but when you come across the line in first place, it's worth the suffering.
Yeah, you know, it was really stinking hot out there today, and you know, I think everyone felt the heat, and it was probably a good idea for the race to shorten a little bit because, you know, we were just rolling around out there in the sun, and it can't be too good for you. So yeah, you know, I'm super happy to get that win. It was a really close one in the end.
It was a really close one last year, in fact, in the same place.
So I think a lot of people misjudged it, and that just made it a super messy sprint. But yeah, you know, I'm happy that I could get out and open my sprints up pretty well, and yeah, get the win in the end.
With about 3 or 4 kilometres to go, Orica Scott were noticeable by their absence. It was as if you guys knew that you had to wait a long time before you started to take control.
Yeah, you know, we obviously don't have the manpower that some of the other teams have come here with our tour ambitions in this tour. So, you know, we have to really use our guys conservatively, and so we can get the best out of them. And you know, they did an amazing job in the end, and yeah, delivered me perfectly again.
And tomorrow you'll be pulling on the leader's overall jersey.
Yeah, you know, it's going to be a really nice feeling, and yeah, it's like a repeat of last year, so I'm super happy with that. Thank you.
Thanks, Caleb and Paul. And I must say that, yes, he's repeated last year, but of course he lost it next day, and I suspect he'll lose it again tomorrow. It's a tough day tomorrow. But there's the result. Ewan against Danny Van Poppel, Team Sky sprinter Sam Bennett, the joint sprinter on that team of Bora. Marco Kump was in 4th place, so it wasn't Swifty. Bonifacio in 5th, Nikias Arndt in 6th. They're all sprinters we expected to be in the mix. And then we've got Basti Plankett, and the man who's recovering from a broken back, Ed Turns, 8th this time out. Miles Scottson went for it, new champion of Australia, there in 9th. Very, very good sprint indeed, but He broke out on the right-hand side of the road. He's done what everybody expected of him, and all that remains now is to get the ochre jersey of leader.
Oh, they are pretty pictures, aren't they? Santos Tour Down Under 2017, the hostwork stage one of the Santos Tour Down Under. So many people came to watch the beautiful scenery, Unley all the way into Lindau. And as serene as some of our shots are, how tough is it when you are competing in such hot conditions? Well, Caleb Ewan did it. He did it again, Rob.
He did it again, and many people would say, well, we expected that one. And yes, we expected it too. But maybe we didn't expect it to be as close as it was. A photo finish here on the line in Lindau. But he really had to fight for every millimetre of that win. Peter Sagan, with his teammate Bennett, who expected to see the world champion leading the bunch into Lindau. Probably a lot of people thought he might go for the sprint himself, but he said this morning, I'd like to show what a good teammate I am. Later in the year, I'll need the help of these guys. He was fully prepared to do the sprint lead out, and it nearly bagged Sam Bennett the win, but Caleb Ewan, once he gets that head down in that aerodynamic position, hits top speed, there's really no stopping him. He's done it again.
Very different finish to last year, though. He had quite a bit of room between him and second place. We didn't quite need the photo this time, but it was close.
Yeah, it was very close, but it's good to see. The level of racing was really good today. A little bit of a procession at times due to the heat. It's almost impossible to ride at 100% of your capacity in conditions like this above 40 degrees. So it was a good decision by the organisation to shorten the race by one lap. We still got the expected bunch sprint. they're going to have to enjoy what that was today, because tomorrow it's going to be a bit tougher. But Caleb Ewan, he showed why he was the favourite for today. It's just so nice to watch him sprint. He's a little missile.
He sure is. Staging connection stage 2, of course, tomorrow. And Rob speaks about Stirling to Paracombe. But let's have a look at the highlights for race, the first stage of our Santos Tour Down Under for 2017.
Was about the heat. Every rider in the peloton was doing everything they could, and look at Peter Sagan, just behind his neck you saw that lump in the jersey. Well, that is a stocking full of ice cubes, and so many riders using that technique to try and keep the body temps low, waiting for the first attack. And I think when Laurens de Vries went, the Belgian from the Astana team, the peloton looked and said, well, none of us want to be out there alone in this heat, and he literally just rolled off the front, went out to around 4 minutes lead. But that's when Orica Scott decided enough is enough, we're going to set a bit of tempo here and get things back under control. In the meantime, off the front, De Vries, he was having a conversation with his director. What do you think? Should I stay out here? How should I tackle this? Well, the big incentive to be out there for both him and the team is to pull on the Subaru King of the Mountains jersey. He went over that climb in first position with a nice healthy lead. So a podium appearance this afternoon for him as Damien Howson led the bunch along for kilometre after kilometre.
And that 28-year-old Astana competitor, Laurens de Vries, will be enjoying an ice bath tonight because he did some hard work. But it was well worth it in the end, wasn't it, Paul, to grab those points?
Well, it certainly was, and he tried very hard out on the course, because I've just come back from the finishing line and he was the last rider to finish. In fact, he got tailed off on the running towards the end, but he's been writing his name in the history books of the Santos Tour Down Under, because he will get that King of the Mountains jersey today. But I think more importantly, when we were out on the course, we saw this incredible battle for small time bonuses, 3 seconds, 2 seconds and 1 second. That is how important these riders realise that the time second bonuses are out on the course. And Simon Gerrans was up there mixing it all the time. I think that could make it quite complicated for Orica Scott once we start to go down to the more decisive stages. Who are they going to back? Is it going to be Simon Gerrans or is it going to be Esteban Chavez?
Well, Paul, I think tomorrow will give us most of the answer. The climb up to Paracombe, we've done it before 2 years ago and Rowan Dennis won, but Chavez and Gerrans both be at the pointy end. But the pointy end today, well, it was just one man that made it pointy for most of the day. But De Vries, he was reabsorbed back into the peloton just a little bit before the next intermediate sprint, and a lot of riders were gearing up for that because, as Simon Gerrans knows very well, this race is won by mere seconds on so many occasions. As we saw the riders come to the second intermediate sprint, going for those bonus seconds, 3, 2 and 1 seconds. It was the Katusha rider, Goncalves, a former winner of the Tour of Turkey and the Tour of Portugal. He's got out there and searching for those seconds, but it was Jay McCarthy over the top, stage winner in Stirling last year, leader of the race, 4th overall in 2016. He took 3, Goncalves 2, and Simon Gerrans was there, nicking another second.
Clever. That's what a master tactician is all about. But then as we started to get that little bit closer, little man from Belgium who's no stranger to the Tour de France, Jan Bakelans, decided he was going to try and get out and get himself an advantage. But coming into that final finishing straight, it almost looked as if Orica Scott had lost control.
Well, they had a little bit, and then we saw the lead out start, and it was none other than Peter Sagan, the world champion himself, leading out his teammate from Bora Hansgrohe, Sam Bennett. Bennett on the left side of pitch, but it was Caleb Ewan threaded his way through, head down, and once he got going, well, he might be small, but he still steamrolled him and went to another win here in Lindau.
Yeah, and confident again. I just heard the chat, Paul. He was upbeat. He was talking about how hot it was, but he managed it well.
But Robbie and I were talking in the commentary all about the fact that you've got to be very aware of which way the wind was coming from, and you noticed that he hugged right the way down the barriers here, getting as much shelter from the wind as possible.
Yeah, it's always the key to a sprint. It's won by, as we saw today, sometimes a matter of just centimetres or even less. A headwind sprint was a little bit difficult, so Caleb Ewan looked like he wanted to come out of the wheels, just had to find his way out, but squeezed himself along the left-hand barriers, and once he got some clear air, head down, aerodynamic, no stopping him.
tough thing about being a sprinter is there's mountains and there's hills in the way, and he will be wearing the Oakers leaders jersey tomorrow, but it's going to be a slightly different finish for him, and we'll see a new story, I think, at the end of stage 2.
Well, what happens now, Rob, because it was a tough old day today, what happens now for our riders who have just finished? Caleb Ewan's won, but tomorrow, Stirling to Paracombe, all those challenges ahead.
Yeah, well, a lot of riders will be thinking about stage 2. They've been thinking about that stage for a long time already. They've got those tough laps around Stirling to begin with. We've seen the race battled out around Stirling so many times. They ride 5 laps before they go to the Gorge Road, and unlike 2 years ago when they did Paracombe, they were coming down Gorge Road to approach it. Now they're going up the gorge past the dam, so it's a serious climb. We're going to see the real climbers come out to play. Guys like Chavez, the Hanau boys from Team Sky, Simon Gerrans. He wants to win number 5, there's no doubt.
But I think, as everybody said, you know, this is an amazing field that's been put together this year, and as Simon Gerrans himself said, this is going to be one of the toughest ones to win, because when we look down our start list, there's so many yellow lines on our highlighter of the guys who can still win this race. But tomorrow, day 2, they have to come out.
Yeah, today it was all about Caleb Ewan. He's done it again. He's gone from the People's Choice Classic into stage 1 as a winner. We've got the podium in just a tick. This is the Santos Tour Down Under. Great to have your company. We've got a wonderful festival of cycling all week this week. We'll be back in just a few minutes from now.
Today's tactic.
Today we had to
This is the Santos Tour Down Under on Channel 9's Wide World of Sports. It's great to have your company. We are in the middle of the 19th edition, and this young star of cycling, we saw him come through as a teenager, Rob. I know that you signposted him very, very early on. 16, 17-year-old Caleb Ewan. He's now 22, and he's well and truly arrived.
It's sometimes easy to forget that he is so young at just 22. He's been around for quite a while now, already 6 years we've been talking about Caleb Ewan. He's been winning races left, right and centre, but on the world stage, we might be in Australia on his home turf, but the best have come here to try and beat him. Not managed it so far. Peter Sagan, the world champion, was 3rd on Sunday night. Went to be lead-out man for his teammate, but they still couldn't get the job done. Caleb Ewan just dominating.
They've probably held him back a little bit from that world stage, haven't they, Paul? Because he's
careful with this jewel that they've got. You've got to, when you've got something like that, you've got to develop them very carefully over the first couple of years, because it's so easy to burn out a sprinter if you put them in the big, hard races too young.
Yeah, and I agree completely. 22-year-old, it's not time to be throwing him to the lions, as it were. Maybe put him in a Grand Tour again, which they will in the Giro d'Italia. Tour de France, maybe a touch too soon. But they got a luxury problem there with all the GC riders too.
Yeah, he's got all the time in the world, hasn't he? And he's a pocket rocket, Caleb Ewan, as we make our way down to the podium for the winners of stage 1.
Different town. He won this stage as well in a great sprint finish. This amazingly is his 4th win already in the month of January. He's won twice in Victoria, now he's won twice in South Australia, and enjoying every moment of it. Orica Scott, the champion, will pull on the ochre jersey very shortly for tomorrow's stage. He's not a great climber, he'll be the first to tell you that, but he's going to enjoy his day in ochre tomorrow. Despite the fact we took out 1 full lap, the time was about what we expected for the day today at 3 hours 24. The sprinters had it. Van Poppel almost made it. Sam Bennett tried after a good lead out by his team captain. Peter Sagan didn't work for him. Marco Kumper came to the fore for the new team there. Abu Dhabi, Bonifacio in 5th place. He's sprinting pretty well for this time of the year. Nicky is on for Sunweb, trying to get their first win for that brand new team. Got the line there in 6th place. And the man who's carrying, or just recovered from a broken T12 vertebrae, Ed Turns, in 8th place. Back on stage for Caleb Ewan. And this is the ochre jersey for this young man. Easy to pick out tomorrow. But you know, 5 circuits of Stirling is a real toughie tomorrow, and then when we've done it, we're off to a ramble across the Adelaide Hills to Norton Summit, which we're not climbing, we're going down at very high speed. We climb Kangaroo Gorge, and then we swing over to a high finish on Paracombe. No disrespect to Caleb, but he won't be wearing that jersey tomorrow night. This is how it stands overall. As you can see, the boys who picked up bonuses on the day are clear of the field. The field placed at 10 seconds. That's the bonus that Caleb got for winning. So Marco Kump is in 8th place, Bonifacio 9th. All the other riders won small time bonuses on the sprint points out at Cockatoo Valley. So the gap 4 seconds to Van Poppel and 6 to Bennett.
Well, as Phil said there, Rob, we won't see Caleb featuring tomorrow in the Staging Connections Stage 2 of the Santos Tour Down Under. It's 148.5 k's. It's for the climbers. But at 22, where he hasn't been launched onto the world stage, it's exciting to think what he is capable of. What can he become?
Well, he's already done quite a lot. He's won a stage in the Vuelta a España, the Tour of Spain. That is the absolute top level of racing, one of the Grand Tours. So he's shown the signs of he's going to do that consistently in years to come. But they're still just trying to look after him, not burn him out. But you know, he's got a big job ahead of him tomorrow. Don't expect him to defend that jersey around Stirling and up to Paracombe, but possibly return the favour to the teammates, do a bit of work, collect the drinks. One thing's for certain, they'll enjoy some cooler temperatures tomorrow.
Well, I think that's the most important thing, I think, about this team, Orica, Scott. It's all for one and one for all, and they will have to turn around the roles. And I think we make no bones about the fact that it's certainly not the kind of finish tomorrow for Caleb Ewan, but it is the kind of finish for Simon Gerrans, who's already snicked a few time bonuses out on the course to get himself up into the top 10. But I think we should be looking at his Colombian teammate tomorrow, Esteban Chavez. Everybody will be working for the overall classification.
One name that we haven't mentioned a lot of, and I think it's got to do with the depth here this year, but Rowan Dennis, a former winner and a teammate of Richie Port's.
Yeah, well, they've got a very strong two-pronged attack at BMC, but Richie Port absolutely wants to win this race. I think he's due, and for me, he is the big favourite for the GC. But a lot of teams tomorrow, they'll be looking to get 2 riders in the front to at least have that, maintain that two-pronged attack to go into the Wollonga stage. But as I said before, at least tomorrow the temperature will be about half of what it was today at only 22 degrees. Quite refreshing.
But I think the profile will be twice as tough as it was today, because 5 circuits around Stirling, that's a very, very hard course, and that's just the start of the stage before they head down and go along the gully. They've in fact even toughened up the finish up to Paracombe, which they wanted to do so they wouldn't have a large group attacking the bottom of the climb, so that we can start to see who are going to be the top 10 or 20 guys who can go on and win this race this week.
The great people at Bolle are on board again for 2017 in the Santos Tour Down Under, and our Bolle play of the day goes to a man who had a very clear vision from the start of the stage 1 of the Santos Tour Down Under. Laurens de Vries, 28-year-old Belgian who rides for the Astana team. He got out there by himself and he stayed there a long, long time, and he picked up the Subaru King of the Mountain. He is our Bolle play of the day.
Certainly not an easy thing to do to get yourself out like that. And looking back through his pedigree, his major victory on his pedigree was he was the under-23 champion of Belgium, and he's not a major winner. So for him to get onto the podium and wear the leader's jersey in the King of the Mountains here at the Santos Tour Down Under is going to be a serious play of the day.
Yeah.
Channel 9's Wide World of Sports. Well, there it is. What a ripping finish it was. And Caleb Ewan outlasting Caleb Ewan outlasting in the end, and a narrow win, but a good win. He's done exactly what he did last year. He won the People's Choice Classic through to stage 1, and he's done that again in 2017. He's a remarkable athlete. But from a sprint finish to where the climbers come out tomorrow, it is of course stage 2. It is Stirling to Paracombe, Staging Connection stage 2, and our sprinters they'll find it tough tomorrow.
They'll find it very tough going right from the get-go. 5 laps around that Stirling circuit, tough in its own right, and then up the Gorge Road, past the dam, so climbing all the way, and then of course Paracombe Hill, very steep. A real opportunity for the best climbers in this race to stamp their authority and make a lunge for that leader's ochre jersey being worn by Caleb Buin, but probably just for a day.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting about the Santos Tour Down Under is the race organiser, Mike Turter, never afraid to try something new, starting with the circuits around Stirling and then the long ride up the gorge, just to try and toughen it up, spice up the race, because we always know it's going to get decided at Wollonga Hill, but this year you've got to come out and play on stage 2.
All right, let's have a look at the track map. Look at this stage in depth, Rob. Stirling to Paracombe.
Well, as we said, starting up there in the Adelaide Hills at Stirling. Good thing for the riders, it's amongst that forested area, bit of shade, but I said it before, the temperatures will be a lot lower in Adelaide tomorrow, forecasting a top of 22, so that will aid the riders in staying hydrated when they climb around this circuit. By the time they leave Stirling, they will have done 2,500 metres of vertical gain already, Paul, before they get to the final part of this stage and the steep climb to Paracombe.
Alrighty, there it is. That is the track map for stage 2 here at the Santos Tour Down Under. And Rob, look, you look fit enough to be still competing. I know you've just come back from Asia and you competed in a race and came 5th at the tender age of 44. You've just done this. Here's your preview. Robbie McEwen.
Here in scenic Stirling, the pure climbers with an ambition of winning the general classification, they need to maximise their chances by making the 5 laps of this tough circuit as hard as they possibly can, with an eye on attacking their depleted rivals later in the stage. After 110 kilometres of racing, the riders will have already done 50 kilometres of climbing. That will surely soften the legs for what is yet to come. Norton Summit is best known as a training climb for local Adelaide cyclists, but today they're heading in the other direction. It's a spine-tingling descent. This 14-kilometre downhill section will be the last chance the riders get to rest their legs, but it's no time to relax. It'll be single file through the hairpin turns, and on the steeper open sections, the riders will be hitting speeds close to 100 kilometres an hour. After a short, flat transition, it's all uphill to the finish. The Gorge Road is another famous passage through the Adelaide Hills, but it's never been used in this direction in the finale of a stage of the Santos Tour Down Under. The damage done on the hilly Stirling circuit will now become evident. It'll be here you'll start to see riders crack and get dropped, with the best climbers coming to the fore, ready to tackle the final ascent. The Torrens Hill Road has been used once before in this race, but this time it's a completely new dynamic. The uphill approach on the Gorge Road will fatigue the legs even more, making the steep ramps of this final climb up to the finish line absolute torture. At an average gradient of 10%, the last 1.5 kilometres of this stage could be the most decisive of the entire race. Win here and you could be well on your way to winning the first UCI World Tour event of the year, just like Rowan Dennis in 2015.
This will be one of the best victories in Dennis's career.
We mentioned Rowan Dennis before, and of course that was where he came up on the inside of his teammate Cadell Evans at the time and won, and he went on to win the Ochre jersey. Paul, I know the great disappointment for you is that we're not going to finish in Stirling and you can't have one of those meat pies. Will you get over that?
I'm going to have to get over it, because I'll tell you one thing, it's going to be an exciting race tomorrow. It's going to be a deciding race, a very important one.
Yeah, and I think the same thing, decisive as Wollonga Hill for mine, because that climb up to Paracombe, very long, starting at the bottom of the gorge.
Can someone from Stirling deliver Paul Sherwin a pie to Paracombe, please, tomorrow, as we have a look at the riders and what they have to say about this important stage?
We'll just see what happens. There's such a strong field here, and it'll be interesting to see who's going well, and I guess we'll find out come stage 2 on the finish to Paracombe.
Stage that starts in Stirling and finishes Paracombe. I think it's going to be the hardest stage Tour Down Under has ever seen.
It's tough, you know. I think Paracombe stage on stage 2, you know, with the laps of Stirling and then over to there, that's certainly a tough day.
It's going to be hard. Obviously, normally
people say Stirling's a solid stage, but we do, and if we do 5 laps there, it's generally going to be pretty hard, but now we do 5 laps and Paracombe.
Come back here hungrier, and the team's given me the opportunity to test myself again in the GC, so yeah, I feel coming into this week after the Nationals last week, I feel probably just as strong as I was last year, so hopefully if the race goes my way.
It's going to be much harder, I think, for the GC guys. There's a lot more climbing, so it's going to be more climbs orientated, which is good.
We don't have a downhill run into the gorge. We have to come over the gorge in Stirling first, so it's a pure climbers race almost now.
We're going to see a different Tour Down Under this year. I think some of the stages are much harder than they have been in the past.
I think it's going to be more of a climbing tour this year, just with stage 2. I think you know, you're going to need a strong team around you as well, but just having that good condition, stage 2, I think it's going to be a shock because only a second day racing for a lot of people.
I think that's going to probably shake up the GC pretty early.
Well, there's a common theme through that. Tough, isn't there?
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about this stage, and for a very good reason.
And you can watch it, of course, all on Channel 9. 148.5 kilometres tomorrow. It is the Staging Connection Stage 2 live, and then, of course, you get the stage highlights. Make sure you watch the highlights tonight if you missed anything. That is every night on Channel 9's Wide World of Sports. You can check your local guides and make sure that you do not miss a thing on the Santos Tour Down Under. We've got the tour tracker. You can tweet. Rob, did you enjoy some of the questions they posed to you?
Yeah, I did enjoy the questions. There's some good ones coming through, so keep up the good work. At Tour Down Under, give them a follow, and then ask your question using the hashtag Ask Robbie.
Ask Robbie, TDU. Ask
TDU,
him
of course.
Absolutely anything you like. Paul, is this the hardest stage we've ever seen tomorrow?
I think it's going to be. But it's all about the riders. It's how the riders race it. They might be a little bit concerned about how tough it is early on. They might go just a little bit easier over those first circuits around Stirling, but there's no going easy on the final climb of the day.
I know you're always doing your due diligence, Rob. You've been going through AccuWeather and you've seen the weather conditions, and they are going to flip overnight.
Yeah, they're going to be turned right around, so it's really in the riders' favour, but it's in our favour too. I think we'll get a much more aggressive race. You saw today De Vries rolled off the front of the bunch. Not many people prepared to go on with it in this heat. Tomorrow, different story, totally different course. Really looking forward to it.
Good on you, Rob. Good on you, Paul. And thank you, of course, to Phil and everyone that's contributed today. All our team here at the Santos Tour Down Under. We hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you stay with us. Highlights tonight, live coverage tomorrow. It's all across the website. We're having a great time. This is Channel 9's Wide World of Sports. Bye for now.